Hey, my name is Kaylee. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is Read, Rant, Review, where, you guessed it, I read books and I do rant reviews. I read a bunch of crazy nonsense and then I tell you all about it. Today we are continuing my once a month journey, my once a month dabble into Freida McFadden. This will be, God knows how many of her books I've covered, like the 6th maybe? I did the whole Housemaid series. We did The Intruder, Never Lie. That's 5. I feel like I'm missing 1 or 2. And then this book. So yeah, I've covered quite a bit of her stuff. I know what to expect. It's something. I consider her to be the Colleen Hoover of the thriller genre. And this book validates that. Today we're covering Dear Debbie by Freida McFadden. This is her most recent novel as of filming anyway. This book was published on January 27th, 2026. I'm currently filming this on February 22nd, so less than a month old. Look at me, being on time for once. Currently on Goodreads, it's sitting at a 4.05 with right at 170,000 ratings. This, I'm sure, is going to end up like all of her other books, in the millions or the high 100,000s here shortly. So I feel so proud of myself. You have no idea, for being ahead of the curve right now. Other stats to know. The book is 329 pages with 69 chapters. Freida, honestly, is kind of known for that, in my opinion, of having very short chapters, like maybe 2 pages or less. And it's just kind of a thing. It makes her books really easy to read. And I usually try to mention this on every time that I cover one of her books. I'm critiquing her work, as I do with most stuff in general that I cover on this channel, but there is merit there, and there is goodness there, and I don't really give a shit. If you like this, that's great. Whatever gets you reading, whatever gets people reading, I totally understand her popularity. The issues I have with her writing are my own, in my own opinion, and I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum, okay? So with that, though, I do just have the same disclaimers that I have on all of my videos. The first one is, this will contain all of the spoilers. You know what you're getting into. It's a beat-by-beat, chapter-by-chapter breakdown. The second disclaimer is that this review is not for the author. It's not for Freida, friends, fans, family, stans, anything of the like. Like I said, I will be critiquing and cracking jokes and making commentary along the way, and I just have one rule on this channel. Don't make it weird, okay? That's all I ask. And then the third and final disclaimer is a content or trigger warning that I like to put on my videos so you know what we're getting into. Freida does not include a content or trigger warning section in her books, but she does on her website, freidamcfadden.com. So let me go on there and read that to you. But before I do, I just spotted something worthy of sharing. The dedication is for my mother, who loves nothing better than a good revenge story. I want you to keep that dedication in mind as we go through this, okay? What the heck? That's crazy. That might be crazier than dedicating that other book to her kid. Oh my God. Okay, so according to her website, which I found, by the way, she has a new book coming out in May of this year. Girl, she is pumping these out. That is insane. The content trigger warning stuff for Dear Debbie, it's literally 3 things. So just skip 10 seconds forward if you don't want this spoiled for you in any way. I'll give you a second to skip. Okay. So there's murder, sexual assault, and substance abuse. And these topics are talked about significantly more and in a significantly more maybe mature way, more serious way than usual in her books. It's a very heavy focus on those 3 topics throughout the book. Definitely more so than I've ever seen in her books before that I've read thus far. So keep that in mind as we go through this. If you've got to tap out for whatever reason, no hard feelings at all. I'll just catch you in the next one, okay? So without further ado, let's get right into this. Chapter 1 opens with our main character, Debbie. She writes is it Dear Abby? The newspaper column asking for advice and stuff. She runs her own Dear Debbie newspaper column for the local newspaper, obviously, in her town. This is an excerpt of that. This is from the drafts file. And I'll just read it to you in the entirety because it's short and it gives the vibe of what the hell we're about to get into, okay? Dear Debbie, You always tell us in your fabulous column that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I believe you. But is my family ever willing to sit down and eat it? Not a chance. Every morning, it's the same circus. My kids are searching for missing shoes or homework assignments that vanished overnight, and my husband can't find his keys or reading glasses. Nobody's interested in taking 5 minutes to sit down at the kitchen table to enjoy a perfectly good breakfast that I just spent the last 15 minutes cooking up. I've tried everything. Quick meals, grab-and-go options, bribery, don't ask. But no matter what I do, my family always leaves the house with empty bellies. How on earth am I supposed to get my family to take a few minutes to eat a nutritious breakfast before they dash out the door without so much as a goodbye? Help me, Debbie. Hungry in Hingham. That's the town that they live in, is Hingham. Dude, this book is psychotic. In like half of it was in like a fun way. No, a third of it was in a fun way. A third of it was in a way that felt campy, like almost intentionally like bad. And then the other one was just like, what are we doing? Okay. So understand that, like, that's what we're going into this with, okay? I was holding it together so good. Dear Hungry in Hingham, indeed, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It boosts your energy levels and alertness, and if you don't get a healthy breakfast, you can feel sluggish all day long. In children and adolescents, a nutritious breakfast can improve recall and focus for school. If your family isn't interested in having breakfast, try to probe to see what sorts of food might tempt them to take those crucial extra 15 minutes in the morning. Some people prefer a bowl of cereal. Others might want pancakes, and others might want a full breakfast with eggs and bacon and whole grain toast. Find out what your family likes best and cater to those desires. And if that doesn't work, I would recommend installing a padlock on the front and back door of your house. First thing in the morning, lock both doors from the inside and keep the key in your pocket. Let everyone know that they will not be leaving the house until they have consumed a healthy breakfast. If they seem hesitant, a simple threat to swallow the key unless they sit down and eat will surely move things along. I have no doubt you will soon be enjoying a wonderful daily breakfast with your family. Debbie. Got it. Okay. I'm locked in. I don't know about you. I read that and I said, okay, let's go. I said, okay, let's get it, Debbie. What's up? What are we doing? And so in chapter 2, we get a little bit more of her home life and her going through breakfast and trying to get her teenage daughters to eat with her. She has 2 daughters. And don't worry, I'm about to rattle off a bunch of names and we will have... It's a Freida McFadden book. There's a bunch of convoluted, crazy messes, crazy names and relationships and a bunch of nonsense. There's going to be a running list of stuff over here on the side if you are a visual person. So you got that going for you. And if you're an audio listener over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hey, thank you so much. Thanks for rating and rank or whatever the heck it's called, the podcast. You guys are super awesome. And if you didn't know that I upload these videos and audio versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, go check it out. But yes, if you are visual, if you are watching, I will have a name list going. So the daughters, we have Lexi, who is in her junior year of high school. And then we have the younger sister, Izzy, who is in her freshman year, I believe. So teenagers, that's what we got. And then, so we got Izzy, Lexi, and then her husband is named, oh God, I literally just read this the last 3 days. How did I forget this man's name? It starts with a C. Cooper. Is it Cooper? Am I just making shit up? Why am I so bad at this? Yeah, it is Cooper. Okay. Debbie, Cooper, Lexi, Izzy. Got it. Okay. That's their family. That's their familial unit. And so chapter 2, it's literally just them getting ready for breakfast, and Debbie's just the embarrassing mom, you know, she's literally not allowed to speak to her older daughter at all in the mornings, or she gets the look. And it's a lot of, I think, reflection of what it means to have teenage kids, which I just don't relate to. But it sounds really, really funny. And it sounds like the way that I also talked to and treated my mom when I was that age. So I think it's pretty spot on. But anyway, bunch of that. Basically, her kids don't talk to her. Her oldest daughter has a really crappy boyfriend named Zayn, who drives a crappy car and honks a bunch. And she's pretty sure he like vapes and drinks alcohol. And he's a senior in high school and just a troublemaker. And then the younger daughter is in soccer, really talented, really athletic, you know, whatever. Both of her kids are good kids. The one's just dating a crappy guy. And then her husband, Cooper, is an accountant. Yay! So that's them. There is a thing, though, as we're going through this, and she's, like, describing these interactions with her kids. And, like, we're getting and her husband, and we're getting like descriptions of them. She says, like me, she might be a little too smart for her own good. And the term, like, or the what would you say to that? Is that a like me? What would that be? Like this one who looks like me. Like me, schoolwork comes easy to her. Like me, she might be a little too smart for her own good. Unlike me and Lexi, Izzy has always been very athletic. Unlike me, he has an aversion to technology. That kind of thing, that's used 14 times. And it's throughout the book. It's in the first 35 chapters. But specifically in chapter 2, 4, and 5, it's used like 8 times alone, which, by the way, was driving me up the freaking wall. I don't know where the editor was. Asleep at the friggin' wheel. But in chapter 2, we learn very, very quickly that maybe things aren't as great as they seem. Apparently, the youngest daughter, Izzy, has been kicked off of the soccer team, and she doesn't want to tell her mom why. She just scurries off to school and just begs her mom to not talk to the coach and to not get involved, and they'll talk about it later or whatever. So she scurries off to go and catch the bus, and then the older sister and Debbie are in the kitchen talking still, and she's like asking, do you know what happened? Like, do you know why she left? Blah, blah, blah. And the Lexi, she's like, stop asking me. I told you, I don't know. You know, just like wicked attitude the whole time. And then she also goes on to say, anyway, she's better off ditching the team. Coach Pike is such a perv. A perv, you say? And so she's like, hey, the fuck you mean a grown man's a pervert? She's like, I don't know. My friend just said that he used to peek into the girls' locker rooms and he was just like really weird about it. And so little mama bear comes out, which I don't blame her, dude. We'll talk about it later, though. Just keep this in your mind. Little weirdo soccer coach, youngest daughter kicked off the team. The drama has already begun. Before we know it, Lexi gets picked up by her boyfriend, and she also leaves. And then we get more talk about the boyfriend and how he's just a crappy guy, and Debbie doesn't want her daughter to be dating him, but she knows if she says no, then the daughter will like rebel even more and date him even harder, you know? So she's just accepted it and just hope that the relationship runs its course. But there's something in his face, the way he looks at Lexi, there's something in his expression that makes me uneasy. It's something I've seen before, a memory that I can't ever block out. Okay. So her kids both leave. She tries to go back to the kitchen to keep on cooking and doing her thing. But there's a flash in the window, and it's her neighbor coming to visit. Her neighbor from across the street, who works from home and plays his music too loud, and Debbie has had to call the cops on him quite a few times. And he comes over, banging on the door, yelling at her to answer it. She grabs a pocket knife, not a pocket knife, like a box opener, box cutter, and answers the door, and she like has it in her pocket, and she's like, hey, what's up, dude? He starts yelling, screaming, and he's like, hey, you crazy broad, you cut the... Hold on, where did it go? You went into my basement and snapped off the switch for my office. I've got no power in that room. This is going to cost me $1,000. She's like, oh my, that's crazy. He's like, you're so full of shit. You hate how loud I play my music. You cut the power. I know you're the one who did it, and you're going to pay for it one way or another. Oh. In case you're curious, yes, she did in fact go over and cut his power because his music was loud and she didn't like it. Okay, I guess. So we're already getting the vibe of her personality that she is a little off her rocker. In chapter 4, she goes back. She like obviously shuts the door in her neighbor's face, and she goes back into the kitchen to continue about her day and to have breakfast with her husband because he'll be waking up here pretty soon. He doesn't have to go to work till a leisurely 9 a.m., so he gets to sleep in and stuff. But this is great because he and her get to have a little bit of private time together after the girls go to school. So as she's waiting for him to wake up and come back downstairs, she's getting a phone call. And it's from her boss at the newspaper, right? She has the Dear Debbie column. And she goes on to talk about, like, the boss is calling her, or my boss, rather. Although I sometimes refer to myself as a stay-at-home mother, I actually do work part-time at the local family-oriented newspaper called the Hangingham Household, writing an advice column called Dear Debbie. It's sort of like Dear Abby, except I wrote it, so it's Debbie instead of Abby. Get it? Girl! People from all over Hingham send in questions, seeking the fruits of my wisdom, and I do my best. People tell me why they love my column, and even though it doesn't pay that much, I enjoy it. Of course, when I first started college at MIT nearly 30 years ago, majoring in computer science, I would never have believed my primary employment would be a newspaper advice columnist. I don't know why that goofed me so bad. My primary employment would be as a newspaper advice columnist. My high school computer science teacher told me that I'd be the next Bill Gates. Suffice to say, I'm not the next Bill Gates. Far from it, in fact. I dropped out of MIT the second semester of my sophomore year. I still tinker in programming, though. I've actually created some apps for the smartphone. Although nobody uses them except our immediate family. The one I'm most proud of is an app called Findly, which is a highly accurate tracker of friends and family. Izzy and Lexi both have Findly installed in their phones, which means that not only do I know where they are, but I'm also able to download a history of their prior locations. My children are safer when I know where they are. And then, of course, it's also on her husband's phone with his permission, of course. Obviously, this will play a big part. And so her boss, she answers it, and he is telling her to come in as soon as possible. That there's something important that he has to tell her. So she's like, okay, cool, I can come in this afternoon. She hangs up. She has to come in the afternoon because there's going to be a photographer that comes by today to take a bunch of pictures of her garden for Home Garden. Is that the magazine? She has this really, really beautiful garden in her backyard, and they're going to come and take a bunch of photos, and she's so proud of it, and she's worked extensively on it, and it's just like this very big like pride thing for her, and she can't wait for this photographer to come at 10 o'clock, right? Her and her husband, they share breakfast. He goes off to work. Awesome. In chapter 5, we get Cooper's POV, the husband's point of view. And of course, when we go to his POV, we get like 4 paragraphs recapping the conversation that we just had in her POV. And I just would like you to know that is like the bane of my existence. Don't give me multiple POVs if we're just going to like rehash and repeat ourselves. I don't care. I only need to hear it once. I promise you, I don't need the exact same scene from his POV. Pick which one it's most applicable for or most meaningful for, and then do it. Extend the scene. Give me a part that like conveys what you're trying to do. Like, obviously you have it from both perspectives for a reason. Like, you're trying to convey something from both sides of it. Extend the scene so it doesn't overlap. Don't give me an identical thing repeated. It's like, oh my God, can you tell? Like, how mad I am at that? It's, like, so irritating. Ugh. But before he goes to work, Debbie is, like, telling him, hey, you have to have that conversation with your boss at the company. You've worked there for 10 years. You need a raise. You got all these like measly raises and measly bonuses, and he obviously doesn't appreciate you, but clearly you're like basically running the place. You have to talk to your boss and try to get partnered or whatever, get like upgraded to be a partner at the accounting firm. He's like, okay, I will. But he doesn't want to because his boss is kind of an a-hole, and his boss is kind of scary. And he doesn't want to bridge this conversation, but he will. We also get the first inklings that maybe there is something amiss, something secretive from Cooper. While I eat, I rest my hand protectively over my pocket where my phone is nestled. I try not to let on that, but that unexpected phone call threw me off my game. He got like a random phone call in the middle of breakfast that he ignored. How could she call me when she knows I'm still home, likely in the middle of breakfast? Had Debbie seen? I don't want to think about it. So immediately we're like, oh, he's like cheating on her, right? Like that's the, God forbid. my other number one pet peeve. God for effing bid. We have a thriller book that does not involve infidelity. Please, that's all I want. I want one singular one of these friggin' books that doesn't involve cheating on your freaking partner, bro. But he goes off to work. And in chapter 6, we get another Dear Debbie drafts file. And in this one, they are complaining about how their husband doesn't like their music and doesn't let them play their music in the car. Like when the husband drives, he says, I am driving and it's my car, so I get to pick the music. And when she drives in her car, the husband says, well, I pay for this car, so basically it's mine, so I get to pick the music. Cool. Awesome attitude about that. And so I'm not even going to tell you what Debbie's response is because I don't like body horror, and specifically body horror to do with like ears and eardrums. Don't vibe with that in any way. So just know it makes it so the husband can't hear anymore. And then after that, he definitely won't mind what you listen to anymore. Awesome. So Debbie, it's 15 minutes until the camera people arrive for this garden thing. And she's sitting there. The whole time, I imagine like her chapters are in like an evil villain monologue for a lot of it, where she's like, if I told them what the flowers really were, I wouldn't be in the magazine. Even Cooper doesn't know. So some of it I picture like that, where it's like this, like, I'm so secretive and scary. If I told them what the flowers really were, I wouldn't be in the magazine. Even Cooper doesn't know. And so then, God, this was really painful for me. This is also where I don't drop this lore very often. My bachelor's degree is in like database analytics specifically. Like I had like a emphasis in database analytics. So she gets a pot going of coffee in preparation for these people who are coming to visit her house, and she's going to play hostess, right? I get a pot brewing using the state-of-the-art coffee machine we received as a housewarming gift, which Cooper immediately deemed too complicated. He now gets his coffee at work, but it's hardly nuclear physics, which is actually nowhere near as difficult as my advanced database systems class in college. Okay. It also gets Okay, I'm not going to tell you. We're going to wait for the reveal together. Okay. We get reminded a lot about how she went to MIT, and at the very end of the book, one of the daughters goes to Harvard. And we get reminded constantly about how smart this woman is and how tech savvy and like amazingly like intelligent she is. Fuck. Okay, so anyway, they never come. The photographers never come. And so eventually she calls the like number that she has for them, gets a hold of the lady, and the lady's like, oh, I thought my assistant reached out to you. We're actually not coming. We found somebody else. Yeah, like when we were leaving your house, we ran into your neighbor, Josephine Dolan, and we saw her rose garden. And the roses were so classic. I thought it would be a nice throwback look for the photo spread. So Debbie's like, oh, this Beezy, she stole my magazine. She stole my pictures. And so she's like so worked up. She goes and tries to find some wine to take the edge off. Yeah, it's really early in the morning. Yeah, it's before 11 a.m. But she's like, I am so frustrated hearing about my daughter's perverted soccer coach, and then now my photo thing getting canceled, and my husband being questionably weird about things and very clearly lying to me about something. I need wine. So she goes up into their little cabinet above the fridge, because they don't drink very much. Like, they just don't usually have alcohol in the house. This is like the only alcohol they have. So she goes up there, she gets this wine, takes a swig of it out of the bottle. That's water. Dumps it out. It's water. Somebody drank all of her wine, filled it with water, put it back up there. She's got 2 teenage daughters, and one of them's dating a craphead. And so she's pretty sure that it was him, like that he stole it. But I'm like, what teenage boy steals wine? Of all the alcohol and all the liquor that you're going to get, you're going to steal some white wine? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe hey, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to. Never mind. And so after this fails, she's still frustrated because this didn't take the edge off. And so she has this like buzzing in the back of her head. And this buzzing in the back of her head gets talked about throughout the book. Pretty much what it is anytime she gets like murderous rage. Anytime that she's like on the warpath, she'll get this buzzing in the back of her brain that like won't go away. So to get it to go away, she decides she's going to go and visit good old Joe, who stole her photography thing. She's going to go and see this lady with these rose bushes and be like, WTF did you just do to me? And why did you steal this? And she goes and knocks on her door. They run into each other. They have like this like really bitchy back and forth. And I don't understand a lot of these. This happens in a lot of Freida McFadden books where the women are just so crappy to each other. So incredibly crappy to each other in a way that like, I don't play that game. And maybe that's a me thing. Like, I don't let people talk to me that way, nor do I talk to people in the way that's depicted in these books. But their back and forth ends with Debbie asking Joe, have you ever heard of karma? Joe says, I don't believe in that hippie shit. He says, okay, well, it means what goes around comes around. Karma. And then she walks away. Okay. Go off, bestie. So leaving this, Confrontation. The buzzing in her head is even worse. And so she decides to go to the nursery, and she goes and picks up Japanese beetle traps, which are like little like ladybugs. They look like ladybugs anyway. They're like an invasive species thing. She goes and picks up traps for these. Has a little bit of conversation with the nursery people. I don't know. It's a bunch of like filler conversation. And the like excursion of picking up these traps ends when a lady cuts in front of her in line, and then she confronts the lady. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be more of a hard ass moment of her being like, I'll just quote it. I'm not going to make it sound cooler than it was. She says, "I don't care if you've been here all week. The back of the line is there behind me. Now, are you going to go there on your own, or am I going to have to make you?" The woman looks like she's going to protest, but then our eyes meet and she changes her mind. She takes a step back, a flicker of fear in her eyes as she hugs the bag of seeds to her chest. "Psychopath," she mutters under her breath. Nobody else hears her, though, and there's actually a smattering of applause as she trudges to the back of the line. And that's when I notice that the buzzing has completely vanished. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So, what's left on the docket of the day for Debbie? And don't worry, this entire book, by the way, occurs over 2 days. So we're already like, it's 10 a.m. So it's not very far into the book, into the day yet. But yeah, I realized that by the end of the book, I was like, this entire thing was over 2 days? Shit was jam-packed. But next up on the docket, she is going to go to the gym. It gets brought up a lot about how much she loves going to the gym, and she works out 3 days a week so that she doesn't murder anybody. Literally, like verbatim, that is a quote from the book. And it was highlighted 1,900 times. And then she has a book club after that. And when she's at the gym, she runs into a girl named Harley, who will be a recurring character in our series here. She's cool. She's one of the instructors at the gym, and she has blonde hair with a pink highlight. So she's really cool and edgy and alternative and like really awesome. So they befriend each other and they hang out and stuff. And they're also going to be a part of this book club together. And they're going to be meeting there later this evening. I say later this evening. It's literally at 12:30. It's going to be in like 2 hours for them. So while they're off doing their little shenanigans, we cut back to Cooper, who has now arrived at work. Again, at the little accountant thing. And he ends up going and having a conversation with his boss. And before that, though, he gets a pep talk from his work bestie named Jesse. Jesse's, I don't know, just another dude, bro. He doesn't really get too much limelight in the book. He doesn't really get mentioned too often. He's just like a general support character for Cooper, where they work together closely and they both go to the gym together all the time. And yeah, go ahead and throw his name up on this list up here as well. So yeah, gives him a little pep talk. Cooper goes in there and talks to his boss. He says, "Hey man, I really deserve a raise. I deserve a partnership." The boss says, "I think not. You're not management material. I don't really see that in the future for you in any way, shape, or form." So that's a really, really funny joke. He says, "Well, if you don't give me the raise, if you don't give me partnership, I'm walking. Like, I'm leaving." The boss says, "Okay, go ahead and put in your 2 weeks notice then, buddy. All right. See you later." Did not go very well. Straight called him on his bluff. And so now Cooper is freaking out because he's like, oh Christ, what am I going to tell Debbie? She's going to be furious. In chapter 12, Debbie has now arrived at book club. And this is the stuff that is in all of Freida McFadden's books that I don't understand. Everything that happens between women, whenever women have discussions or any type of like back and forth, the few scenes that would in fact pass the Bechdel test are scenes where these women are so misogynistic and like so hateful toward each other and like vitriolic that it doesn't even count. You know what I mean? Like it is, hold on, I think I have something highlighted here. They're talking about a book, and this is from, like, chapter 12 is her being at the book club and it not going very well. Chapter 13 is from Harley's perspective at the book club, and the whole time she's thinking all of these women are, like, rich bitches, and that she just, like, repeats that so many times in her head as they're all talking. And so they're talking about this book, and they make a reference to some play, and Debbie says that she's never seen it. I liked the book that they were supposed to read. She's like, but I don't know this other thing that you guys mentioned. Well, of course not, Rochelle. She's just one of the women. She doesn't matter. I don't think her name ever comes up again. Well, of course not, the woman says. You never went to college, and that's the sort of book that you need to read at a collegiate level. Debbie's face turns slightly pink, and I don't even know why she's in this book club, because she doesn't seem to like any of these women very much. Unlike the three of them, Debbie's actually nice. Sometimes it seems she doesn't have much going on upstairs, but she tries her best. And I'm like, even your friend is saying that about you, and then you got these women saying this shit, and it gets worse. I just think it's not worth discussing any book that hasn't won a Pulitzer. This other woman continues, we shouldn't have to dumb down our own book choices for the people with less education. If Debbie can't participate, we can meet separately. And Debbie is here. She's at the meeting. And so she says, I can participate. Debbie protests weakly. And this is the I said this, what one was it before? It was in the second housemaid book where the woman was flirting with her husband in front of her. And I said, we can meet out back. Like, I'll meet you in the parking lot. This is another one of those situations. What do you mean? Why are you talking like this? I'm not saying resort to violence. I would never say to resort to violence. Violence is never the answer. Right? But like, I'd be throwing hands. That's all. But before the women can really continue to say much more horrible things, they all end up getting sick. Well, most of them. Every woman that's there except for Harley and Debbie. And they all just start puking. And they all just feel really, really terrible and start like running around getting sick. And so Harley looks over to Debbie and she says, Debbie, it seems they have, food poisoning. She blinks at me, her wide-eyed stare completely blank. Gee, you think so? I almost ask if there's any chance it could have been something in the sandwiches she made. I didn't eat any and I didn't get sick. And I happened to notice that Debbie didn't have one either. Then again, it would be rude to imply to my friend that something she made with her own two hands caused women to go into fits of vomiting, even if it could be true. I'm just grateful Debbie forgot about my avocado allergy. Things could have been much worse. And at this moment, I said, oh, avocado allergy. Is this going to come back around? Is this going to be used against her eventually to off her in the book? It doesn't. Avocados, literally, they get talked about like one more time and something about like, make sure you don't give me avocados because I'm allergic. And that's it. It plays no importance. Why did you have this extra paragraph here? It didn't matter. Okay. I'm asking too many questions, I should just be having a good time. In chapter 14, this is another excerpt from the Dear Debbie drafts files. Dear Debbie, this one's actually really important, so I'm reading the entirety of this one as well. Dear Debbie, I've been married for over 20 years now, and although in many ways it is a happy marriage, there are certain aspects that I am unhappy with. I'm hoping you could give me some advice. When we first got married, my husband was adamant that he didn't want me to work. I thought this was very sweet, and when my children were young, it made sense. I loved how he provided for us. But it could also be frustrating. For example, he set up our credit card so that he had to approve every purchase. When I wanted to buy something, I would have to call him about it and get his verbal approval beforehand, or else the card would be declined. Similarly, we only have one joint bank account, and it only has a small amount of money that is my allowance. Since I am the one who buys groceries, most of the money must be spent on that, and if I want any other purchases, I have to ask him to add money to the account. He insists that I save the money from my tiny allowance, so if my shoes wear out and I need a new pair, I have to save for months to buy them. He feels that I'm not responsible with my spending, and he has a point. I'm not the one earning the money. For that reason, now that our children are older, I suggested the possibility of getting a job so that I could have my own money. I thought this was a perfect solution, but when I mentioned it, he became furious and said that if I got a job, it would mean that I don't trust him to support me. I am just frustrated because even though we are well off, I have been living on a shoestring budget for my entire marriage. How can I convince my husband to let me work and become more financially independent? Rich, but broke. And I would just like to acknowledge, before we get into what this is and the response, this is a real problem. And this is a real problem with the whole trad wife, trad girlfriend, stay-at-home girlfriend, stay-at-home thing trending, is that it does put women in very, very vulnerable positions. Just like this. This happens all the time. And if you have an opportunity to work or to have a little nest egg and to have a secret, maybe not a secret, but a separate account of your own money that you can fall back on at any time, I 1,000% recommend it. Don't ever be 100% reliant on somebody if you can help it. Always have an escape plan. Okay? Always, 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 always try to have an escape plan if you're able to, even if it's great. I am so happily married to a wonderful, wonderful man that would never do anything like that. But you can bet your bottom dollar that I have a separate personal savings account that is like entirely my own for in case something, God forbid, were to ever happen that I needed to go and be away or do something, right? It's important. Okay? Please keep that in mind. Stories like this, keep that in mind. Anyway, Debbie's response though. Dear rich but broke, what you are describing is financial abuse. Your husband is using money as a way to control you. And then this part is has a line through it. And he deserves to suffer. You don't need his permission to get a job. You don't need his permission for anything. My advice is that you should, and this part is lined through, slip poison into his wine at dinner, and lined through, speak to a divorce lawyer. I'd be happy to give you more information on, and then this is scratched out, poisons that are unlikely to be detected on an autopsy. And then now the actual advice. Local legal options if you'd like to contact me through my email address on the website. Debbie. So, chapter 15, Debbie goes to work. Right? Her boss had called her in, said that she needed to be there for whatever reason. She gets there and she is getting fired because one of her advice, that most recent one, right? The drafts, you can tell she's not shy to tell people to get divorced. She recently told somebody to do that. She recently said to get divorced, and it got published in the paper, and a bunch of people were really, really upset about it. A bunch of the, not sponsors, but like the advertisers that were in the paper were upset about this because it's a family-oriented paper. What are you doing saying people should get divorced? That goes against our like moral or ethical code or what the frick ever. And so her boss fires her. And he also fires the editor that published it because she had approved it. And so she's just as guilty as you are. Bye. Get lost. She tries to push back or whatever, obviously. But just more and more emphasis that this is a family-oriented paper and she just needs to go. So they escort her out, and she notes, it's funny that they're so worried about the key. That isn't the thing that they should be worried about me having. At the thought of this, the buzzing suddenly stops because obviously she's getting confronted and yelled at by this man. She starts getting that buzzing in the back of her head. And as people follow her around and she's getting like escorted to get all of her things out of her desk and then give them the keys to the building. She's just kind of like losing her mind, buzzing until she remembers there's something that they're not taking away from me. What could it be? What could it be? In chapter 16, she is making brownies and her daughter comes home from school, the youngest one that got kicked off of the soccer team. And so she's like, hey, Lizzie? Who the frick are we talking about? I'm combining the children. Izzy. Oh, no. Oh, no. Felt like Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. Anyway, soccer daughter. We'll call her that. Soccer daughter, Izzy. She comes home from school and they have a little bit of small talk. And she's like, hey, girly pop, for real, what happened with the team? What do you mean you don't want to play anymore? Like, what do you mean you got kicked off? Your sister said you got kicked off. Like, why aren't you playing? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't want to say anything. And so she's like, Mom, just like, please drop it. Don't worry about it. Okay. And like, please don't call, Coach Pike. Like, please, just like, let it go. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. Just knock it off. And she goes on to say, I'm going to go do my homework. I've got a ton of homework this year. So actually it's probably better that I don't have soccer. And Debbie's like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's bullcrap, but I'll let her get away with it. Because I promised her that I wouldn't call Coach Pike, but I never said that I wouldn't go up there and talk to him in person, which is exactly what she is about to do. And this chapter ends, what's my note here? I always keep my promises to my children. I promised Izzy I wouldn't call her soccer coach, and I won't. I'm going to drive down there. Yeah, because she already said that, like, way earlier in the book when we first got revealed that he got called a pervert by the oldest daughter. She was like, I'm going to pay him a visit. And then now we get it again. I'm going to pay him a visit. And it'll happen, like, one more time before she actually pays the man a freaking visit. And that happens so often in the book where it's like, hey, did you forget what's going to happen next? Hey, I teased this way earlier. here's the follow-up, and then now it's about to happen, and look at me, I'm tying all these loose ends together that I brought up before. I'm like, yeah, you are, but you don't need to like explicitly say it. I mean, okay. And this is the part where I go back and I say it's an accessibility thing. It makes these books very, very easy to consume and easy to read, and you can turn your brain off and just read a crazy story and you don't have to think too hard. And there's a lot of merit there, and there's a lot of value there for people that read for fun, right? And there's a lot of like enjoyment and purpose, and that type of literature, there is a market, obviously, and a need for it, as long as it's getting people reading more. And so I don't want to sit here and like shit on that specific type of writing when that is a writing style that is needed in the world. Makes sense? But I feel like it just, I don't know. I personally don't like reading stuff like that. And so it just like, when I read it, it drives me up the wall, but I understand why it's there and what it does and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So just like you, me, we're on the same page, right? You're picking up what I'm putting down. Cooper, husband guy, after he basically put in his 2 weeks notice at work, he goes to the gym with his buddy Jesse, right? The little not a wingman, I don't know, best friend, homeboy, guy pal, amigo, chief. Cooper and Jesse are at the gym, and Jesse's like, so are you gonna tell your wife that you basically quit today, or that you don't have a job anymore? And he's like, no, I can't, like, I want to get a job first. Like, I want to get something else worked out before I say anything, because I don't want her to worry about it and be freaking out. And Jesse's like, yeah, probably a good idea. She's like pretty intense, right? I was like, what? Why are you talking shit about my wife? Again, fighting words. And then when he's going to leave, he's kind of like ogling this girl that walks by. And then the lady at the front desk named Cindy, she says, have a good workout today? The woman who works the front desk interrupts my thoughts. Am I imagining it, or is there a bit of edge to her voice? Yeah, thanks. You know, she says, your wife was here earlier working out. Yes, that's definitely an edge to her voice, but she wouldn't tell Debbie if I was ogling some other woman, would she? I barely looked. So we're already getting inklings about some weird things going on at the gym. Maybe a little flirtatious, little eyeing across the gym. Don't like that. Don't like that. Debbie, in chapter 18, thank God she finally made it to the high school to go and confront Coach Pike. And she's thinking, after all, what's more honorable than protecting your child? If my parents had protected me better, well, no point in thinking about that now. And then I would just, future Kaylee, thinking, I've read the whole book now, this statement about her parents is not relevant to what happened to her that we learn about later in the book. Her parents could not have protected her better. They had nothing to do with what happened to her. This is such a weird call line, or like line to call out and to be like, I'm doing what my parents should have done for me. It's okay. It's a misdirect. Everything is a misdirect. So she goes to visit Pike. Under the guise, she like goes up to the high school to drop off food for like the food drive, and then she has a tray of brownies that she made earlier, and she talks to the front desk lady, and she says, hey, do you care if I go talk to Coach Pike? There's some conflicts with the soccer schedule I gotta go and talk to him about. She's like, yeah, whatever, she's busy. Tip, 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 or tappy, 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 tap on her computer anyway. She goes back there, finds Coach Pike in his office, and he's like eyeing her up and down like immediately when she goes in there, and she's like, oh, he is a pervert. Got it. And then he's stares at the chocolatey treats thoughtfully, considering his next words, because she offers them to him as like a gift, I guess, of them talking. So he's staring at them, and he says, actually, the brownies are part of the problem about Izzy getting kicked off the team. Excuse me? At the end of last season, I told Izzy that she was too slow and she needed to lose weight before the next season. 15 pounds at least, but 20 would be better. My jaw drops. You told my 15-year-old daughter that she needs to drop 20 pounds? I told her she needed to be faster. I suggested that losing weight might be a way to be faster, but she's not any faster. And on top of that, she's 5 pounds more than she was last year this time. We've got 2 extra girls on the team and someone had to go, so I cut her. Oh, nobody wants to watch a bunch of chubby girls running around the soccer field. That eyeful isn't going to make the crowd happy. Hell, I don't even want to see it. Oh, oh, okay. My head is spinning. I can't believe he just said that about a bunch of teenage girls. I want to repeat this conversation to the principal, but he'll just deny it. If I ever doubted Lexi's story about the coach accidentally walking into the locker room, that doubt is gone. If he hadn't kicked Izzy off the team, I'd have insisted she withdraw to avoid any further interactions with him. And so then the conversation ends, right? She's about to leave. And he's like, hey, if you want to help your daughter, help her lose that weight, stop making brownies all the time. And while you're at it, it wouldn't hurt for you to lose a few pounds yourself. Cool. So my teeth are clenched so tightly, I can't believe one of them doesn't crack in half. And she takes a breath and then she's like, all right, thanks. Thanks for your time, and leaves. But I can't leave now. I have one more stop to make before I go. Girl, where are you stopping at? I'm trying to think if she stops somewhere in the school. I don't know if she actually makes a stop in the school. I guess we'll find out together, because I obviously forgot, even though I read this literally last night. In chapter 19, we're back with Cooper. What are you up to, buddy? He gets home, and the house is dark. I had thought Debbie would be in the kitchen working on dinner, but I'm relieved that she isn't. And I'm relieved she isn't. I didn't want to be bombarded with questions the second that I walked through the door. Although there likely won't be that many questions, only one. What happened with your boss? And obviously he doesn't want to answer that. So as he's getting in the house and getting settled, Debbie does come home, walks into the room, and he tries to get on it first. And he's like, hey, how did the photo shoot go? It went great, she said in a chipper tone. I can't wait for you to see the pictures. Oh, so y'all are just lying to everybody. You're just lying about everything. And she's asking him how the conversation went with his boss. And he's like, yeah, the partnership's off the table. But doesn't tell her that he got fired or quit or whatever, however the hell you want to phrase what all that was. Doesn't tell her. Just says, yeah, I don't know, partnership's off the table. Cool. And so then she's going to make dinner, but it's going to take an hour, which is crazy because Debbie is never late for dinner. It's always 6:30 on the dot. So I'm not sure what is going on with my wife. This is so weird. This is so not like her. And then he's like, hey, honey, I'm really hungry though. Do you care if I just go and get some fast food? She says, okay, yeah, just if you want to bring me some French fries back. And he says, you got it. And so he goes to leave. Last year, Debbie, who I might have mentioned, is a genius. Hey, did you forget? Is a genius, installed an app on her phones called Findly. It's sort of like Find My Friends, but with much more impressive accuracy. Jesse was shocked when I told him that there was a tracking app on my phone that allowed my wife to know where I was at all times. He announced that I must be pretty whipped to allow her to install something like that. At the time, I couldn't imagine anything I would be doing that I wouldn't want Debbie to know about. And now, as I walk out the front door and toggle off Findly, if she asks, I'll tell her it must have been in a dead zone, but I'm sure as hell not sharing my location with her for the next couple of hours. She can't know where I'm going. And then he shoots off a text message to whoever. Oh, I love that so much. Oh, this is so fun. I'm having such a good time. So we go to Harley's point of view. Yeah, Harley, the friend, the cool friend girl who works at the gym and has a pink hair stripe and stuff. We go to her POV and she gets a text message from somebody asking if they can come over. And she says, yeah, of course. And he says, okay, I'll be there in 15 minutes. And she just got out of the shower. And so she dresses up a little bit and she puts on some makeup to have a makeup, no makeup look. And I look hot. I look much hotter than her. I mean, it isn't even close. Oh, so it's Harley the harlot. Harley the hussy. Okay. So, while I'm in the middle of practicing smoldering looks in the mirror, there's a knock on my door. And she goes out there and she throws the door open. Hey, Harley, he says. I smile at him, that flutter in my chest that I always get when he shows up at my door. God, he's so sexy. Hey, Cooper. He pauses one more beat, and then he steps inside the apartment. He doesn't waste another second before kissing me. His wife will be expecting him home soon, so there's not a ton of time for foreplay. I might be his first affair, but he's not my first married man. Not even close. I know the score. When's Debbie expecting you back? I ask him as he kisses my neck. I hate to talk about her when we're having sexy time, but I need to be practical. I want to know how long we've got. Okay. Hey, Freida McFadden writing a likable female character challenge impossible. What do you mean? She says, I know what you're thinking. I'm a terrible person, a homewrecker, and you wouldn't be wrong. But the truth of the matter is that humans aren't meant to be monogamous, especially men. Biologically, they have a compulsion to spread their seed to as many women as possible. And also, biologically, Debbie is past her childbearing years, whereas Cooper, at 46 years old, has many reproductive years left ahead of him. Biologically, Cooper is designed to want me. Oh, sorry. Square up. And so she's like, goes on talking about him. She's like, I'm so madly in love with him. And I tried to look him up and everything, and I just couldn't, you know, I didn't mean, it wasn't my intention to befriend his wife. I didn't want to befriend the wife of the man that I'm hooking up with. I mean, I'm not a complete psychopath, but then one morning I was talking to Cindy at the front desk at the gym, and this 40-ish-year-old woman walks in with a pleasant but somewhat regular face and hair pulled back into a neat ponytail, swiped her card, and the name Deborah Mullen popped up on the computer. So of course I was curious. I'm only human. It's not like I went to her house and stalked her. I'm not a stalker in general, but to be fair, Cooper is impossible to stalk. The man has no social media presence, which isn't uncommon for men his age. When I couldn't find him online, the only way that I could learn about him was to do some real-life reconnaissance. Reconnaissance? That's how you say the word, right? Even so, I just meant to have a conversation with her. But every time she mentioned Cooper's name, I found myself hanging on her every word. She seemed to have no idea how much trouble her marriage was in, or else she was trying to hide it from me. After all, you don't go around telling strangers that you haven't had sex with your husband in 2 years. So I figured if we were better friends, she might be willing to confide in me about Cooper. That was when I invited her to get coffee with me. One thing led to another, and suddenly we're getting coffee regularly, and then she was inviting me to her book club, and now suddenly we're best friends. I get the feeling that she doesn't have a lot of friends, and the truth is, neither do I. Probably because you sleep with all their husbands, you whore. Sorry. Cooper would be furious if he knew that I was spending time with his wife, so I have been careful not to mention it. At some point, this is definitely going to blow up in my face. I can't maintain a friendship with Debbie while sleeping with her husband. One day, over dinner, Debbie is going to mention her new friend Harley to Cooper, and he'll probably choke to death on a carrot or something. Talks a little bit more, yaps a little bit more about it all, and then ends the chapter with, "But very soon, I won't be the other woman anymore. Cooper is the one. The more time I spend with him, the more certain I am that that's true. And very soon, Debbie will know that too." Oh my God. It's been a couple hours since Cooper has left, and so when Debbie, she's back home. We're in her POV now, by the way. She's just at home minding her own business, and the motion sensor front light, porch light thing pops on, and she thinks that it's Cooper coming home. But it's not. It's her oldest daughter and her oldest daughter's boyfriend, like coming home from running around, causing chaos, whatever they do. And she, happens to hear them fighting and kind of peeks through the window and sees them looking at each other. And she wants to crack the window open a little bit to hear what's going on because it doesn't look good. Like, this isn't like a fun exchange that's going on, and she's being very protective of her daughter. And so she is about to try to crack the window so she can hear this, but she doesn't, because while watching, the boyfriend grabs the daughter's arm, like very aggressively. And so she just goes outside and just pretends that she had to go and do something and interrupts the moment. And then they part ways and the daughter comes inside. Obviously very upset. And she tries to play it off, right? He leaves. They both go back indoors or whatever. And the daughter's like, "Were you spying on me?" She's like, "I wasn't spying on you, I swear." And she's like, "Okay, so why'd you open the front door?" "I was looking for your father." Blah, blah, blah. And then a bunch of other stuff. And then it's like kind of annoying. But they end up going their separate ways. It's not annoying. Teenagers don't like talking about their problems, right? The couple of times that like I was going through it as a teenager and I actually did have my parents clock it and say something to me, I completely shut it down. Because I don't know if it's like embarrassing. I don't know if it's like wanting to take care of your own thing, or if it is like I'm not sure what that is about teenagers, or if that's just more of like the relationship with your parents that you don't feel that you can open up about stuff. But I get it. I'm not saying it's annoying in the sense that it's not real. This is a very, very real reaction from a teenager that's in a very clearly horrible relationship. Anyway, Debbie ends the chapter thinking if he does anything to hurt her, he'll be very sorry. We're just like straight up with the vigilanteism. Freida said, "Oh, y'all like that? Lock in," right? And then she goes and does all this craziness in this book. She knows her audience. She knows what the people want. So, chapter 23, a continuation from Debbie's POV. Cooper is still not home. He doesn't come home for another hour. And she notes as he's like coming inside and stuff, he always turns off his location sharing. She knows that he's doing this crap. I rise to the sofa to confront him. "Where have you been?" I told you I grabbed some dinner. And then I was just, driving around a bit. I had to clear my head. And then he gives her bag of fries, but it's very clearly like they're cold and the bag is like soaked through with grease. Like it's been a minute that he has had these with him. And so he finally opens up about the whole 2 weeks thing and about this conversation that he had with his boss and how he doesn't really have a job anymore. Sorry, I want to move past it. I'll find something else. This could be a blessing. I was never going to become a partner there, so maybe I can find something better. He's like, anyway, I mean, at least we've got your salary from Dear Debbie to tide us over until I find something new. And she internally, she's like, right, right. I never told Cooper that I got fired today. Today was a great day for the Mullen family. I open my mouth to share this little revelation, but I can't make myself do it. Cooper looks miserable enough, and I can't bring myself to drop one more thing on him right now. He'll look for a job, and I'll look for a job, and between the two of us, we'll find something. We'll be okay. Ken made a huge mistake. Ken is the boss. I reach to take both of his hands in mine. You're his best employee. Cooper just shrugs. Maybe. You are. Trust me. Ken Bryant is going to regret letting you go deeply. Cooper seems a bit skeptical, but I know what I'm talking about. Sooner than he thinks, Ken is going to be sorry for what he's done. Chapter 24, another Dear Debbie drafts file. This woman writes in that she can't sleep because her husband snores really bad, and Debbie's solution is to suffocate him with a pillow. The noise level may briefly intensify, but I guarantee that within 5 minutes the snoring will have stopped. Permanently. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, focus. We're back to Debbie's POV. She wakes up at 2 a.m. and her heart is pounding. I had considered setting an alarm, but I didn't want to risk waking Cooper. Thankfully, he's still asleep. And so he doesn't stir as I climb out of bed. He generally is a sound sleeper, but it helps that I put some opium in the diet soda that I poured him while we were eating the French fries. The colorful flowers in my garden look a lot like wildflowers, but that's not what they are. Yes, I grow opium poppies in my garden. Technically, it's not illegal to grow them in your own backyard. It's only when the quantity reaches a certain level of acres and you're manufacturing sell to others that it becomes problematic. I suspect the neighbors would frown upon it, and God knows what Zayn, her oldest daughter's crappy boyfriend, would do if he knew. So I tell everyone they're wildflowers. Of course, she's like, I don't just grow it. And she grows other flowers, and we hear all about it and how colorful and beautiful that her garden is in the summertime, and that she harvests the opium. Can I say that word on YouTube? Am I getting like straight up demonetized saying it so many times? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, she's like, yeah, so I figured out, I watched a YouTube video on how to mess with the flowers to get this stuff out of it, and I have it in little vials. I've accumulated quite the little stash. I suppose that's what happens when somebody with an IQ of 178 has no job except for weekly... Hold on. I suppose this is what happens when somebody has an IQ of 178 and no job except for writing a weekly advice column. I do write those apps for our phones, but I've become so quick at it, they don't take much work anymore. My brain is screaming for stimulation. I said, girl, IQ of 178? What, is this a freaking, this feels like a message board story, you know what I mean? Like one of those like really, really old, like OG scary stories. Oh, telling me your objectively villains IQ'd of how smart and a genius they are? That's crazy. What other book? I think we also had IQ referenced in The Predator by Runix. Morana, that character, who was also a computer science person and had written code that could end the world for the mafias or what the fuck ever. I think her IQ is like 158. So this lady's smart. Oh my God. So she's up at 2:30 in the morning and she's about to cause some chaos. You know those Japanese beetle traps that we talked about earlier that she bought? She goes over to Joe's house, sneaking around the middle of the night. Don't worry, she's keeping an eye out for cameras. There's no cameras, but still, she stays by the shadows and she goes to Joe's garden in the backyard and she digs her little hole around them and digs the Japanese beetle traps all around to try to have the Japanese beetles fly to the garden and like be an infestation or like a horde. What would you call it? What's a whole lot of bugs? What's the word? Oh, that scared the crap out of me. My blinds just fell the last quarter of an inch. Did you see me jump? That's embarrassing. Hold on. I forget words. I jump at little things. Hold on. Let me look up some. I'm not even going to do it. I don't even care. I'm just embarrassed. Hold on. I'll be right back. After she's done at Joe's garden and burying these things, she goes and gets into her car and drives across town because she could walk there. Like, walking there is objectively probably the better idea, but she doesn't want to look suspicious. And so she puts it into her GPS on her phone, and she also acknowledges that this is probably a bad idea, but it's better than driving around and, again, being suspicious. And she arrives at Coach Pike's house, and she's looking in the front yard and quickly spots where he keeps his like key for his house. It gets talked about throughout the entire book. Like, that's one of her favorite pastimes, is figuring out where people hide their spare keys. And this is one of them, where she looks in the front yard and she's like, there's 2 sprinklers and they're too close together, and one of them's brass and one of them's this other thing. One of these is clearly a fake one. As quickly as I can, I unscrew the bottom of the fake sprinkler head. Sure enough, a key falls into my hand, as do a few $20 bills. I don't want the money, and I'll be putting the key back when I'm done. Nobody can know I was here. And if Coach Pike ate at least one of those brownies, which I'm almost certain he must have done based on how he was eyeing them, he's going to sleep through the entire night. Long enough for me to do what I need to do. I take a deep breath and walk in the direction of his front door. Oh my God, I just remembered. Oh my God. Okay. I remembered where she went in the school now, where she's like, I have one more stop before I can leave. Got it. Not me piecing the book together. And so she, I don't know, does whatever Debbie does in the darkness at Coach Pike's house while he's passed out from her flower juice that she mixes in with stuff. And we go into chapter 26 from her husband, Cooper's perspective. And he wakes up at 3 a.m. feeling super, super sick. And Debbie's not there. And he's like looking around, trying to find her. He goes downstairs thinking maybe she's asleep on the couch, like maybe she was feeling ill as well. Can't find her anywhere. And so he's like, okay, this is really, really weird. And like over the last several months, Debbie's been acting strangely. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it's something. Every single day since we started living together, Debbie has made the bed after we got up for the day. And then 6 months ago, she suddenly stopped making the bed. It's not that I care if she makes the bed. Frankly, I prefer not having to wrench the blankets out from under the mattress every night, but I can't figure out why she stopped. And when I mentioned it, she just shrugged and changed the subject. And now she forgot my lunch this morning, and my tie looks like a kindergartner tied it for me. And then now she's missing in the middle of the night. Like, there's just something going on with my wife. And so he pulls up his phone to try to find her on that Findly app. And there's flashing dots on the map indicating where each member of my family is. Both of the kids are home, thank God, because he goes downstairs and sees that Debbie's car is missing. I don't know what I would think if both of them were missing as well, but Debbie's dot is not positioned over our home. And as far as I can see, she's still sharing her location. I squint down at the screen. It looks like she's at an address in Weymouth. It doesn't sound familiar to me. In fact, as far as I can remember, I don't know anyone who lives in Weymouth, although it's just the next town over. And so he writes on the notepad next to the bed the name of the street that she's on. And then he's like falling asleep as he's doing it because the drugs are starting to hit him even harder. Now, Debbie, she made it back home and she went to sleep. So the next morning, she wakes up pretty early and I feel oddly refreshed, even though I took a middle of the night excursion. Cooper's passed out next to me in bed, snoring more loudly than he usually does. And so she gets dressed and then she goes to leave. I get in my Subaru and 20 minutes later, I'm pulling up in front of Kenneth Bryant's house, her husband's boss. Unlike last night, the street is well lit, and there are people leaving their houses to start their day. Still, I'm pretty sure nobody will notice my unassuming vehicle. It's not like a middle-aged housewife attracts any unwanted attention around here. And so she had driven by Kenneth's house last night as well, because it was like on the way to Coach Pike's house. And so she already scoped it out. There's no cameras. Or no, there is a camera. She knows that there's a camera on the front door. She's already like clocked all of this stuff. She's got all the info that she needs. And so she goes in here. Knock, 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 open up. It's Kenneth. He has no idea who she is because, again, not a friendly guy, not a family guy, and doesn't want anything to do with the employees, like literally just wants them to make money for the accounting firm and whatever. So he doesn't know who she is. And she's like, I'm Cooper's wife. And he says, what? She's like, Cooper, who worked for you? And he says, oh. And she's like, can I come in? And he says, I guess. So she goes inside. And I don't know. It doesn't matter. She goes inside asking him, hey, you made a real big mistake doing that to my husband and firing him and stuff. And then she pulls out a gun. She's like, hey, I think you should sit down for this conversation. She puts on a pair of gloves and he's like, what? A pair of leather gloves. And he's like, what are you doing? Are your hands cold? And then she like pulls it out of her purse. Ah! So he's sitting on the couch and she's like, yeah, stop talking, I say in a sharp voice that silences him instantly. I stare down at the older man who's trembling on the living room sofa, and then I look down at the gun gripped in my right hand. Am I really going to do this? It's one thing to cut some wires in a fuse box or poison sandwiches, but it's an entirely different thing to... I'm about to cross a line, and once I do, I won't be able to go back. Then again, this has been a long time coming. I'm glad I wore black to hide the blood stains. Oh, awesome! Awesome! Oh my God. Okay, we're 42% of the way through. We're like basically 50%. I'm going to go and eat dinner. I'll come back. This is crazy. Okay, I'm back. I know you were really worried about me. And I know you're curious. I had Panda Express, fried rice, double orange chicken. Delicious. I know somebody was curious. So chapter 28, Cooper's POV. What is this guy up to? He wakes up after this whole waking up at like 3 a.m. thing and going back to bed. And then he wakes up again later in the day. And he feels fuzzy. He does not feel very good at all. And he feels hungover. And he kind of remembers last night of like, where was my wife at? And there's ringing constantly. Like a phone just keeps getting called and called and called over and over again. And at first he thinks it's his. And he's worried. But he realizes that it's Debbie's and she's in the shower and she can't answer it. And so he finally does, because it's her boss and he has called multiple times. And so he picks it up and he says, hey, she's in the shower. Like, can I take a message? And he says, she needs to call me back right now. This crazy B word hacked into the newspaper website. It's not really hacking. She had the password. She ran it. She ran like all kinds of stuff for the newspaper, had the information for the website, went on there, uploaded a video of her boss boning the secretary, and it's just like fully an X-rated video of his affair is on the homepage of this website. And then she changed the password to the account so nobody can get in there and change it. And he's not tech savvy enough to figure out how to do that. And so he's calling, freaking out, trying to get a hold of her of like, WTF, why would you do this? And like, blah, 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 blah. And Cooper is like, my wife wouldn't do that. What are you, like, what? And ends up hanging up on him because he starts cursing and saying some bad stuff about Debbie. And so he just hangs up on the guy. But I frown at the phone, suddenly overtaken by a feeling of deja vu. This is the exact same conversation that I had with Brett yesterday morning when he accused Debbie of messing with his fuse box. She certainly has the technical skills to do this, and if she got fired yesterday, that's motive right there. She would have needed to obtain the footage of Garrett with the other woman, but she's the one who installed the cameras outside of our front door, so she certainly knows how to plant a hidden camera. And so then, this was so funny. Actually, hold on. I forgot about this. In the middle of him saying, like, hey, look, Debbie didn't do this. She did, and I swear to God, she's going to pay for this. I'm going to make sure she pays. Okay, that's enough. I understand he's upset, but nobody threatens Debbie. Watch what you say about my wife. Oh, yeah? Or else what? If you so much as breathe on her, I growl into the phone in a voice that actually sounds fairly scary. I'm going to drive over to your house and break your face. I can hear the sharp inhale of breath on the other line, and with that, Garrett finally goes quiet. I take the opportunity to end the call. A second later, the phone starts ringing again, and I put it on silent. My note just says weather boy. Because I'm gonna come and break your face is not intimidating. That is literally the same as the, like, wouldn't you like to know, weather boy, from that one kid? I would rather have heard that, and I would have been more intimidated by that. Or, like, you don't want to know. Or something, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna break your face. It just seems so childish. Nothing of, like, it's just having weather boy as the note for that section is fucking hilarious, dude. And so Debbie finally comes out of the shower, and Cooper gets her all caught up on what's going on in this phone call, and she pulls up the website and shows her and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, I guess Garrett really is sleeping with her. There's rumors and stuff around the office, but I just didn't believe it. So much for being a family man, huh? He thinks that you're the one who posted the video. Does he? What does he think? That I hid a camera in his office months ago to get something that I could someday embarrass him with? Not in so many words. Well, that's a little ridiculous, don't you think? Crazy broad. What are you doing? I'm literally about to start sobbing. What the fuck is this? Anyway, the chapter ends. Debbie goes downstairs to go cook or do whatever. And Cooper's just sitting there thinking about life. And he's like, man, this is all just so weird. And then he remembers he has that note in his drawer that he wrote last night at the street that she was on. And so he goes and looks at it, and it's nearly impossible to read. It seems to say Maine, but it may as well easily could say Maple or something completely different. I rip the paper from the pad and stare at it for a moment. And then, for reasons I can't entirely explain, I stuff the piece of paper into the top drawer of the nightstand before heading for the shower. I don't know. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. I don't know. In chapter 29, it is that morning. Still the same morning. Like I said, this entire book happens over 48 friggin' hours. And so she's cooking breakfast, and the girls come downstairs, and the oldest one is a little bit more talkative today. She actually is, like, kind of chatting with her mom, and it's crazy. And then she asks for a ride because her and Zayn kind of broke up or whatever, right? And Debbie is so excited for this. She hasn't driven her daughter to school in so long. But she makes the mistake of asking what happened with her and Zayn, and then she shuts down. And then next thing you know, he's honking outside for her, and the daughter, the oldest daughter, asks Debbie to go and tell him that she's going to get a ride with her mom. Does that make sense? She's like, please make him go away, basically. And so she does. She goes out there and she says, I'm bringing her to school today, but I'm here. Right, and you can leave? And so he does. Awesome. And he does, and she's like, I wish or hope or whatever that this is the last time that I'll ever see him, but I doubt it will be. Okay. Chapter 30. Another Dear Debbie drafts file. This one is talking about how this mom can't stand her teenage daughter's boyfriend and gives the advice of you can't really convince her to dump the boyfriend. The more that you do that, she'll like stubbornly want to stay with him. So instead, perhaps you can invite him over to your house for a nice home-cooked dinner. After an hour of bonding over pot roast, I bet you'll find that he isn't half as bad as you think he was. And if after your family dinner is over, you still feel that way, I would suggest that you sneak out to his car while he's busy with your daughter after dinner. It's a simple process to snip the brake line. You say he drives fast, but with no brakes in his car, I'll bet he'll go even faster. Debbie. Again. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. In chapter 31, Debbie's POV. The girls, or she's dropping the girls off at school, and she's like, I wish that I had a teenage, I wish I had a time machine. I wish I could talk to 17-year-old Debbie and warn her about everything that was going to happen to her. The first thing I would have told her would be to stay home that night during the second semester of her sophomore year. If I had, everything would have been different. And this is what I mean about, like, it gets consistently referenced and consistently sprinkled through the story until we get to, like, learning what actually happened her sophomore year at MIT that led to her dropping out. But before she can really think of this for, like, much longer, they kind of turn the corner to the drop-off point and they see a cop car. There's a cop outside of the school and the lights are on, and they don't know what it could be. And so after she drops the girls off, she goes and parks. And then there's like a group of moms that are outside of the school, kind of gathering, waiting, trying to see what the information is. Well, it turns out the cop is there to arrest Coach Pike because he had, let me find it, put a nanny cam in the girls' locker room or in the girls' shower or something. He put a nanny cam in there. And yeah, they think that it was him. And I guess he had like the app on his phone or whatever to connect to it. And he's like, I didn't do it. He's yelling, the camera isn't mine. I don't know how that stuff got on my phone. And then Debbie, conveniently, as all the moms are hearing all of this information and he gets thrown into the car, she's like, I always did think he was kind of weird. He always made really weird comments. And then all the moms are like, yeah, he did. And then they all chime in and start talking about how much of a weirdo creep this guy is. And so then she's like, not that she like got away with it, but you know what I'm saying? She's feeling herself about getting this guy arrested. In chapter 33, Cooper's point of view, he goes into work and his boss isn't there. His boss went on a spontaneous fishing trip and didn't tell anybody that he was going beforehand, just decided to go. And so he sent some emails to a couple of the workers about some stuff to do, like hold down the fort basically, and asked Jesse, right, the friend guy, Cooper's friend, to water his plants for him. And yeah, that's about it. And the whole watering plants thing really, really hurts Cooper because his boss used to ask him to water plants. And he's like, wow, I really am, like, I guess, kicked out of here if he's asking the other dude to do it. Really hurts his feelings. And in my note at this point with this whole Jesse thing, I have, bro, is she effing Jesse? Who is this man? Why is he here? Why is a man here? Ahead of my time. Freida never introduces characters unless it somehow has some crazy twisty linkages. You know what I mean? Everybody is somebody in a Freida McFadden book. So the question is, who is this man? We won't know for a very long time. So yeah, the two of them talk. They have a little bit of bonding. I don't know. He tries to call his boss, like Cooper tries to call his boss for some information because he just has like a bad feeling about this. And also he's like noting the fact, why can't I turn off this buzzing in the back of my head? Maybe it's because of all of the years I've known Ken. He's never once taken a spontaneous vacation. Every time he's taken so much as an afternoon off, he's given us several weeks notice. Maybe I should go and check on him. But that might not be a great idea. If he is home, Ken wouldn't appreciate it if I showed up at his front door. And if he's not home, that sort of thing might be looked at as trespassing by a disgruntled employee. I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he'll be back on Monday. And when we go back to Debbie, she's gardening. She loves gardening. It's so great. And then she ends up texting Harley to go and to have dinner together that night. And Harley agrees. So Debbie is going to go over to Harley's house and they're going to have a little snack and it's going to be great. And then Debbie goes for a walk around the neighborhood and she just happens to walk by Joe's house, right? Joe, the crazy lady with the rose bushes who stole her photography spot and her magazine spread and home garden. That Joe, she goes and walks by. She goes and walks by her house. And there's like a big group of people outside. Well, it turns out the photographer showed up and then he sees all these bugs around. And he says, I am not photographing a garden infested with bugs. There's hardly any bugs, Joe shouts. The man gives her an eye of a, are you kidding me look? And that's when I swivel my head and take a look at her garden. Wow, there are Japanese beetles everywhere. Japanese beetles are shiny metallic green with bronze wings. The tiny insects are clinging to the blades of grass and the leaves and petals of Joe's precious roses. It almost looks like every Japanese beetle in the Hingham area, hell, maybe every beetle in Massachusetts, has congregated in Joe's garden. It's practically a swarm. Swarm! That was the word I was looking for earlier, by the way. Soon they will have devoured all the flowers and leaves, leaving behind a patchwork of holes and lacy remnants. Those trap refills worked even better than I had hoped. You, she cries, did you do this to my garden? Me? You really think I have the ability to bring a swarm of Japanese beetles to your garden? I'm not a beetle whisperer, Joe. Okay, I need to know how many times Japanese beetle specifically was said in this book because good lord. 11 times. Big yikes. I think this is the last time it gets talked about. So we're talking about like 11 times in the 2 scenes that we've had with this. Good God. And then Debbie leaves this conversation and she goes over to Harley's for dinner. So she goes, this is the first time that she's been over there, and Harley's given her a little bit of a tour. So she lives in a basement apartment. Oh my God, sorry if you're hearing the vibrations. My dad is texting me. Only because it's so funny. So he sent this thing. It says, don't throw out doll heads. You can turn them into handy nightlights for your kids. And then it's this like really creepy picture of these doll heads being turned into nightlights. And I said, that's some shit my sister, I use her name obviously, would do. And he said, right? Might be my Etsy retirement. Okay, Dad. Okay. It is fucking 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. And you're sending me creepy doll heads. Okay, Debbie, homegirl. She's getting a tour of Harley's basement apartment. She lives under this really old couple, and they're out on, I don't know, they're like out of town for the weekend or whatever. And she tells Debbie this, and she's like, yeah, it's just like so quiet and so peaceful, but like especially so right now because they're gone. And then shows her around, and then they go into Harley's bedroom. And my gaze drops to her dresser. There's a t-shirt crumpled up on top of the dresser, and it looks several sizes too big for Harley to wear. Before I can stop myself, I pick it up and I realize that it's a man's t-shirt. And there's something achingly familiar about it. Not just about the way it looks, but the way it smells. I sleep in that, Harley says quickly, tugging it out of my hands. I love sleeping in oversized t-shirts, don't you? Except the t-shirt doesn't smell like Harley. The entire apartment is very heavy with the distinctive scent of her perfume or laundry detergent or whatever it is. But that t-shirt smells different, like men's cologne and something else. Sweat. Well, I say brightly, why don't we have some lunch? Sounds great. Oh, it's lunch, not dinner. Sorry. I follow Harley back to the living room, but I realize I've suddenly lost my appetite. Uh-oh. So Harley, chapter 36, I can't decide if I should tell Cooper about that his wife discovered his shirt in my bedroom. I couldn't believe it when she zeroed in on it. She couldn't quite recognize it. She wasn't certain, but she was suspicious. And then she brought it to her nose and sniffed it. I thought for sure I was busted when she did that. After all, a woman knows what her husband smells like. Okay, I don't like reading about this woman. And so they're having lunch and she's like, so how's Cooper doing? He's fine. What'd you say he does for a living? Something in like an office, right? Yeah, he's an accountant. Right. That's sort of boring. He's a little bit of a nerd then. And then like that type shit. Again, square up. Gathering myself. Yeah, like prying this woman for information from her husband that she's like obsessed with. And then she goes on to say, it must be hard being married for so long. I would think that after like 5 or 10 years, a lot of romance gets sucked out of it. Debbie's eyebrows shoot up to her hairline. Uh-oh, maybe that was too far. I got greedy. But I'm desperate for a tearful confession that she and Cooper don't love each other anymore and that he hasn't touched her in years. I don't want everything he told me to be a lie. Marriage can be hard, she says quietly. I wait for her to elaborate, but she doesn't. I grudgingly respect that she isn't trashing her husband, but maybe that says it all. If she and Cooper were stupidly in love, she would say so. She's embarrassed to admit that her marriage has fallen apart. Cooper is the one. Every time I meet with him, I'm more sure of it. And now that I know Debbie, I understand why he's desperate to get away from her. I just have to handle this exactly right. I hate this. I hate this so much. In chapter 37, back in Debbie's point of view, she's driving back home after visiting Harley. My head is spinning as I drive back. That shirt, that t-shirt, that it was in her bedroom. I can't get it out of my head. And she's like, this smell, it still lingers and blah, blah, blah. And she's just freaking out really, really bad. And so she ends up calling her husband to see what's up with him. Because, I don't know, maybe some comfort, maybe running away from the problem, maybe, I don't know, whatever. He answers and he's a little taken aback by her random phone call in the middle of the day, but it's fine. They talk through it and she's like, oh, okay, well, have you talked to your boss yet? You know, have you talked to him more about this whole promotion thing? He says, no. You know, yeah, I'll just have to talk to him Monday. He's out on a trip or whatever. And internally, Cooper won't be talking to Ken Bryant on Monday. Nobody will be talking to Ken Bryant on Monday or ever again. Okay. Back to Harley. She's at work, so she's at the gym, and Cooper shows up, and she approaches him and talks at the gym, and he's like, this isn't allowed. It's too, somebody will see us, right? He's like, this is inappropriate. And we've seen this earlier, right? The lady at the front desk was already clocking some weird stuff and calling some people out for talking to people with spouses. And so she, sorry, what the hell? Hello? Kaylee, come back. She's like, okay, fine, I'll make it quick. Are you going to come over tonight? Like, are you going to come over at 6, like after dinner? And he says, yeah, that should be fine. I'll come at 6-ish. I'll tell Debbie that I'm staying late at the office. Editing Kaylee, it's not dinner that night. It's dinner the following night. So they're at the gym. They make these plans. He's going to go over to Harley's house tomorrow night to have dinner. Okay? Got it? That's the story. Let's continue. A cloud as I make my way back to the front desk to pick up my schedule for tomorrow. I barely even notice the disapproving look on Cindy's face when she hands me the schedule until she won't let go of the piece of paper. Harley. What? What's wrong? He's married. I know he's married. Then why are you messing around with him? Cindy doesn't get it. She's single and seems to have no interest whatsoever in dating or sex. She's old, even older than Debbie. She's actually pretty attractive. She could have a partner if she wanted, but she doesn't want one. She must be one of those women who hates sex. You can't expect somebody like that to understand. This is actually none of your business, I tell her quietly. This is actually none of your business, I tell her quietly. Cindy blinks at me. You're right. It's none of my business. I celebrate a little moment of triumph, but then I realize that if she wants, Cindy could tell Debbie what's been going on. If she tells Debbie that her husband's cheating on her with me, well, I do want Debbie to find out, just not like that. I want her to find out in a way that I can control. That means that I have to be the one to tell Debbie that her husband is cheating on her. I just have to figure out how to break the news. Which is, again, like the 4th effing time that we've ended a Harley chapter of her saying, like, I have to tell Debbie what's going on. Then do it. And this is all I would like to remind you, by the way, just so we're all clear on what's going on here. It's the same day. Me 87 effing times that what you're going to do later today, what you're going to do tomorrow. Why are we being so repetitive for a 48-hour time period, dude? It's fine. It's fine. Harley goes back home after this. When she gets there, though, she pulls up to her house. Keep in mind, she lives at the end of a dead-end street. It's literally like the house that she rents the basement apartment out of thingy-majiggy, whatever's going on there. And then like one other house a little bit further down the road, but that's it. So it's really, really weird, especially when her upstairs people are out of town, that there's this like weird SUV that she's never seen before in the driveway. Turns out it is the sister of Harley's most recent boyfriend. And she's like, you ruined my brother's life. You wrecked his family. You got his wife to divorce him, and then you decided that you didn't want him. That's not an entirely fair assessment. She's in her head thinking this. That's not an entirely fair assessment of the situation. Edgar and I had an affair about a year ago, and yes, I did convince him to leave his wife of 30 years, but unlike Cooper, who has a lot of compelling, thought there was a T in there. A lot of compelling physical attributes. Edgar was 3 decades older than me, seriously balding with a weak chin and beady eyes. His most attractive feature was the fact that he was quite wealthy. He failed to mention that the wealth belonged entirely to his wife. He also failed to mention that he had signed an ironclad prenuptial agreement and would be left penniless in the divorce. So really, he completely misrepresented himself to me. I was the victim here. I mean, did he think I was going to live in the basement apartment working at a second-rate gym? Oh my God, Kaylee? Working for a second-rate gym? Why is this such a hard sentence for me? I mean, did he think I was going to still live in a basement apartment working a second-rate gym as a trainer when I'm 40? He was delusional if he thought that. And that's certainly not my fault that his wife didn't want to take him back, or that his 3 children didn't want anything to do with him afterward. And so then the sister says he hung himself. What? She's like, you heard me? He's still alive. it was a failed attempt here, but now he is like, he had brain damage from this. Like he at least was losing oxygen for a period of time, that now he has a lot of brain damage and he's in like a home having to be taken care of and stuff. And so the sister's here and she's like, hey, I'm literally whatever. I'm just asking you to go and visit him because he has nobody and nothing. And now he's all damaged and hurt and he's at this hospital thing that's like an hour away. Can you just go and visit him every now and then? Like he at least smiles and that's how we know that he's happy. And there's like something that's still there. Can you please just do something to not ruin his life entirely? Do you know? I bet you can't guess what this woman said, okay? I'm not going ever. I'm sorry that Edgar couldn't even manage to kill himself properly, but that's not my problem. There's no way that I'm wasting even one more minute of my time on him. Okay? Okay? Okay. Alrighty. That's something. In chapter 40, it's another Dear Debbie drafts file. This one is something about a kitchen and them not liking what he cooks, and she gives a recommendation of different ways to cook or things to cook to make him like the meals. And if none of that works, I would recommend you trying a new and interesting way to flavor his food. For instance, ethylene glycol, also known as antifreeze, has a lovely sweet taste. If you put a healthy dollop in his food, it will enhance the flavor, and I promise you he will have no complaints after he finishes. Debbie. Debbie! Got it. Got it. 41. We're back to Cooper. What's this MFer up to? When I get home from the gym, Debbie is cooking dinner in the kitchen. He ends up talking to his daughters and they get him caught up on stuff about like Coach Pike being arrested for a program on his phone that connected to the camera, just like what we have at our own front door, right? Because he had put the creepy camera thing in the girl's shower and then he had the app on his phone. I'm sure he did it, Lexi mutters. Coach Pike is a total creep and everyone knows it. I'm just surprised he was stupid enough to get caught. I mean, did he really think that putting a camera in a girl's locker room, like nobody would notice that? And then she goes on to say about how now with him in jail, that this other woman, this other teacher is taking over coaching the soccer team. And she already said that Izzy can join the team again. She said I can join again. She's not as strict as Coach Pike. Yay! That's so great. She's back on the team, guys. Guys, she's back on the soccer team. And so Cooper is getting more and more suspicious about these apps, about the weird things his wife is doing. Just like it's all adding up to be kind of weird, right? The whole camera thing. And so he rushes to go upstairs. And he's looking on his phone and he's Googling, right, Coach Pike. And he's finding these news articles and finding the guy's full name and then doing like, you know, whatever Pike address and types in the thing to find out where the guy lives. Lives on the street that he wrote down on that little piece of paper, right, that he has in his dresser drawer. He pulls that out. He compares it to his phone research about where this guy is. And Debbie was at Coach Pike's house in the middle of the night. Then the next morning, he was arrested for having incriminating software on his phone. There's no way that that could be a coincidence. But it also seems impossible. Could my sweet, unassuming wife really have broken into the coach's house while he was sleeping and installed something on his phone? Mild-mannered housewives don't do things like that. Just like they don't break into neighbors' basements to destroy their fuse box or post X-rated videos of their bosses online. I stare at the piece of paper with Pike's address on it, trying to figure out what to do with this information. If my wife did all of those things, she's an incredibly disturbed individual. She would be somebody in need of serious psychiatric help. Because if she could do all of that, who knows what else she could be capable of? She could be dangerous. Hey, you right, bestie. In chapter 42, Debbie has some more conversations with her older daughter. She's like sobbing uncontrollably. It's really like not good. But she finds out that the reason her and her boyfriend broke up is because he has pictures of her like boobs, like topless. And he is threatening to share those pictures around the high school and distribute it if she doesn't have like full on intercourse with him. And he's like blackmailing her and she doesn't want to do that, right? She has not ever done that stuff before. She wants to take it slow. She wants to blah, blah, blah. And he's just like pressuring her into this. And so Debbie loses it after finding this out and finding out these threats and stuff. The buzzing starts up again in the back of my head and I want to kill that bastard. And she asks explicitly, are you saying that he's threatening you, that if you don't do this, then he's going to spread these pictures with all of his friends? And she's like sobbing, and she's like, yeah, I don't know what to do. My life is ruined. And like, he's done this before. Like, he transferred to our school between sophomore and junior year. His family moved here from Florida, apparently. This girl he was dating during sophomore year, sent him naked pictures, and he circulated them everywhere. He showed it to me. Ugh, seriously? And he didn't get turned in for doing that? His friends all covered for him. Nobody would say where the photo came from. Eventually, though, everyone was passing it around. And so she like comforts her daughter. She's like, hey, it's going to be okay. You know, we're going to figure this out. Like, I need you to trust me right now, okay? Like, you have to trust me. She's like, okay, fine, Mom, I trust you. I just wish she knew that I used to be just like her. I was carefree and intelligent and, yes, beautiful, even though I didn't see it at the time. And then something happened that ruined my life. And that's why I refuse to let anything like that happen to her, because I love her more than anything, and I want her life to be as good as mine was promised to be before I was raped during my second year of college. Talk about that was a mic drop reveal moment where you're giving me, yet again, the same sentence that we're ending all of Debbie's chapters on, and like repeating the same sentiment. But at least that one gave us more information. Now we have like the answer to these bits and pieces that we've been like teasing about almost. So yeah, that's the thing that ruined her life, and she ended up dropping out of school, dropping out of MIT her sophomore year after this happened to her. And it's a story I've never told before. Don't worry, there won't be any graphic details. The truth is, I don't remember very much. What happens is she ended up going to a fraternity party her sophomore year with like her roommate or something. Ends up drinking a Coke, because she doesn't really drink alcohol at all. And she's just hanging out in the corner. And this like older guy approaches her. His name is Hutch. He approaches her and he's like, hey, you know, you should have a drink. Like, no wonder you're not having a good time. You're not having any booze. Gives her some alcohol. This is like the second time she's ever drank in her life, or third time or something like that. And obviously it's like roofied. And then he takes her upstairs and R's her, and then she ended up just going home after that. There's obviously significantly more detail. I'm not going into that. After getting straight A's the first semester, I failed every single class my second semester. I didn't even show up for the 2 final exams. A counselor at the school talked to me about my decline. She tried to ask me what happened, but I refused to tell her. I just said that I was feeling unmotivated and I needed a break from school. I went home for the summer hoping some time away would heal me, and I never went back. I almost told Cooper what happened to me 1,000 times. He was the first guy that I dated after I left college. He was so sweet and patient with me, although he had no idea why I was so anxious when it came to sex. Even without telling him anything, he was understanding. In the end, I was scared to tell him the truth because I thought he would respect me less. And then after we were married, I was scared to tell him because I thought he'd be mad at me for not telling him sooner. And now, after 20 years of marriage, it's far too late. And that makes me want to cry really, really bad. Both of these characters, by the end of the book, I was legitimately like crying for. Some of this is like silly goofy vigilantism, like over the top, just goofy. But then the character stuff, like little bits of it, like this one with Debbie and then something that we'll talk about later, I was like, oh, Freida. I wasn't expecting to relate to any of your characters because I never have before in any of your books. And both of these things just like stabbed me through the fucking heart in a way that I was not ever expecting to have in a book like this. So I was just like, good God, dude. So that was number one. That was my first time having that. And then she's like, yeah, so, and I'm not going to tell Cooper anyway because he has a lot of secrets that he's keeping from me too. So I guess we're just doing our own thing. But anyway, back to this whole my daughter's boyfriend guy. Fills me with rage, so burning hot. I feel like I could tear that punk limb from limb. But of course I can't do that. I don't want to go to jail. And so she's like, and physically, I'm not sure I could do it. I'm not some sort of superhero. And then in parentheses, super villain, ? Capable of ripping a person apart with my bare hands. Anyway, what I will do to him will be much, much worse. 44. She waits until everybody is asleep. She gives more like sleeping stuff to Cooper that night. And then she sneaks into her daughter's room. She's a heavy sleeper anyway, so it's not like a big deal. And she grabs her daughter's phone and she texts the boyfriend and says, hey, I changed my mind. I actually do want to do things. How about you meet me at the shipyard? I guess that's where the high school kids go to like drink and hang out and stuff. She's like, meet me at the shipyard tonight and let's do it. He says, okay. He's like, I knew you would change your mind. Gross, 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 gross stuff. They talk back and forth a little bit. And then that's the agreement. They're going to go there. And she notes, I happened to notice on a recent excursion there that there were no cameras around the area where they're going to meet. It's a playground. I don't know why they're meeting at a playground, but that's where they're meeting. And there's no cameras. And so the following chapters just depict her continuing to talk to him and lure him there and stuff, and then watch him from the shadows. And she put some beer out there. She bought like a 6-pack, opened one of them, put sleeping stuff in it, and then left it there. Of course, he finds it, and then he ends up drinking it. Just drinking an open alcohol container that you just happen to stumble across on a bench, even though your girlfriend's not there yet. So clearly it's not from her. This is literally just some random open alcohol container and he just chugs it. What are we doing? Obviously it's laced though. So he ends up like passing out on this bench. And so she goes over to him and then gets his phone and is able to, it has like a face lock thing, but she knows that it'll unlock even though he's asleep. Like he doesn't have to like make eye contact with the camera, or the camera doesn't have to see his eyes to open, because she turned on the settings for the like turned off the attention function, which I guess is a thing. I don't know. I don't do face unlock because that shit freaks me out. Yeah, I guess that's a thing. So she's able to open his phone with his face even though he's asleep. Goes in there. She deletes the text message thread with Lexi. She obviously deletes it from Lexi's phone, blocks his number from her phone, goes into his, is going through all of his conversations and stuff to find evidence of him sharing the photo of that girl, takes a bunch of screenshots of it. He shared this photo multiple times and the evidence is all there right on his phone. He never deleted any of it. And he called my daughter stupid in one of his text exchanges with his friends that she stumbled across. So now she's like extra mad. I screenshot everything and then I create an anonymous email account. I said everything to both the high school administration and the local police department, noting the approximate age of the girl. I allow myself a smile. Tomorrow will be interesting. In which case I'm like, so we're still just sharing and spreading naked images of this teenage girl, right? What the hello? What do you mean? So finally she goes home. It's like 3 a.m. this particular day. She goes home. And when she gets there, Cooper is waiting for her in the living room. And he confronts her and he's like, where were you? I was just driving around. Were you at the shipyard? Because again, they have the Findly app. She left the app on her phone. And she's like, yeah, I couldn't sleep. He struggles to his feet. His brown hair is tousled from sleep, and he has a day's growth of beard on his face. When I first met him, I had not been on a date in a very long time, but he seemed so sweet and earnest when he asked me. I was afraid of men for a long time because of Hutch, but for some reason, I wasn't afraid of Cooper. He was, in fact, the first man who didn't give me that sick feeling of fear in the pit of my stomach. He didn't seem like he would ever hurt me. Which, before I read this next line, I would just like to note, yes, I also related to this very heavily, of going on a date with a man for the first time in forever, and also that man being the only man that has not given you that sickly, icky feeling in the bottom of your stomach in a very long time. And then I married him. And so she is thinking this or whatever. And then she's like, when did that change? Because he seems a little on edge with everything going on. And he's like, Debbie, like, please tell me, like, where were you last night when you told me, or he's like, yeah, please tell me, like, where were you? And she turns on him and she's like, where were you when you told me that you were getting dinner and then you were gone for 2 hours? And then this is when I said, Jesus fuck, has all this been in 48 hours? Yes. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And so he goes on to say, I told you I went for a drive. What do you think I've been doing? And then they both are just like very much both realizing that they're just lying to each other. And that's just where they are in their marriage, where they just like openly, blatantly lie to each other. And neither of them really confront the other because like, I guess we're all just keeping secrets here. And then he stays asleep in the living room. And then she goes upstairs and goes to bed. And then we get another Dear Debbie drafts file. This one is like, my husband, I think he's cheating on me. He becomes very defensive when I ask him about it. Whatever. Debbie's response is, Unfortunately, when a man is cheating, it's common for him to become overly defensive when confronted. If you're highly suspicious that your husband is cheating on you, one thing you can do is search to see if he has an alternate phone that he's using. Along those lines, he may have an alternate email address. If you can't find anything on your own, but you're still suspicious, you may consider hiring a private investigator. If your private investigator turns up signs of infidelity, you may want to then consider hiring a lawyer or a hitman. See? You have so many options. Debbie. Okay. In chapter 48, back to her POV, it's the following morning. So I guess now we're on day 3. My bad. This happens over the course of 3 days. Okay. So never mind. Harley just went home. Tonight is the night that I fall for you over again. Tonight is the night that Harley's going to be having dinner with Cooper, okay? Yeah, we're all on track. We're all here. So, next morning, Debbie wakes up. She goes downstairs to make sure that her husband is up and off the couch before the girls come downstairs because they don't want to, have any evidence of them not doing well with their marriage or whatever. What a crazy concept, hiding your marriage problems from your kids and not just doing it out in the open in front of everybody. What a novel concept. It says a child of divorced parents. Anyway, yes, so they're eating dinner or breakfast. Jesus Christ. So she and the girls are eating breakfast, and then all of a sudden there's a knocking on the door, and she's like, who could this possibly be? She goes to answer it, and it's the boyfriend. I guess he woke up from that park bench and is freaking out a little bit. And so he's very, very pissed, and he's like, where's Lexi? She's eating breakfast at this moment in time. Can I help you? He looks like he's not quite sure what to say. He can't exactly tell me that my daughter stood him up in the middle of the night, so he says the one thing he can say. She blocked me on her phone. That's her business. Do you have any messages that you want me to pass on? Yeah, tell her she's a bitch. Oh, I'll be sure to let her know. Also, I have a little message for you as well, Zayn. Yeah, he rolls his eyes. That's right. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of what happens to a sex offender in prison. What? A sex offender. Like, for instance, somebody who passed around naked photos of a 15-year-old girl, which would legally be considered CP. I can't say those words, sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do. Anyway, if that person were 18 or older and were to be caught, and these days digital footprints make it so easy to be caught, prison would be a rough time for him. They often get attacked by other inmates to punish them and elevate their own social status. What? And when you finally get out, I continue, you have to put yourself on the registry everywhere you live for the rest of your life. You have to let your employer know. Any woman that you date can look you up and, well, cancel. And good luck finding a place to live where you have to tell the landlords that you're a sex offender. Oh, okay. Zayn is shaking his head and all the anger has vanished from his face. He looks decidedly freaked out. Look, just tell Lexi that I can't drive her to school anymore. Will do, I say cheerfully. I close the door in his face and return to the kitchen where my sandwich is waiting for me. I slide back into my chair and pick up my Egg McMuffin. Mom, who was that? Lexi wants to know. Nobody important. I take a bite out of the muffin. It's delicious. And I bet she thought she ate. Dude, I cannot with this book, dude. Oh my God. So, back to Cooper. He goes back to work. Still no sign of the boss. Is it like Thursday and then today's a Friday or something? I don't know. I don't care. I'm not looking. He goes to work the following day. Still no boss. He's still on the trip. But also now, all of a sudden, the secretary has been reviewing the funds and finds that somebody's been funneling a lot of money out of the company. Like, a lot of money out of the company. Jesse looks up at me and grins. Did you take the money, Coop? Fess up. He's joking around, but I have a terrible sinking feeling in my stomach. It doesn't feel like any of this is a coincidence. Ken Bryant randomly disappears on some fishing trip in the middle of the week and nobody can locate him. And then a bunch of money disappears from the company account. and it looks like an inside job. Maybe I'm suspicious over nothing, but I can't seem to push away the feeling that a noose is closing around my neck. And then Debbie is thinking of some stuff for apps or whatever that she's going to develop on her phone. And then she gets a phone call from Izzy, and Izzy says, hey, some crazy senior guy, he drove his car into the school, and now there's an ambulance and a fire truck here, and can you come and pick us up, please? Like, we're not allowed to leave class until our parents come. A boy smashed his car into the school, drunk at 9 in the morning, a kid who obviously wasn't thinking straight. He was a senior. It's possible that the senior who crashed his car could be... No, it couldn't be. Although... I hop in my car and I drive as quickly as I can in the direction of the high school. It is, in fact, Zayn, Lexi's boyfriend, who she just ranted about in the morning about how he's going to be on the registry and going to prison and stuff. Turns out, I guess he just immediately left that conversation, got hammered, drove into the school. I don't know. Don't look at me like that. I don't know. So she picks up her daughters. They're in the car. Obviously, the older daughter is like freaking out and sobbing and stuff because her boyfriend is hurt. My boyfriend has a broken neck. He didn't die. He survived, but he has a broken neck. But last night you had a problem, and now it's fixed. Lexi looks up at me with a tear-stained face, which is frozen in an expression of horror. Not like this, she chokes out. With those words, she squirms out of my half embrace and runs up the stairs 2 at a time. The last thing I hear is the door to her room slamming shut so hard that the windows rattle. Well, I don't get it. She had a problem and I fixed it. I wish somebody had done that for me when I was in trouble. Maybe my whole life would have been different. In any case, I don't regret what I did. I never told Zayn to get drunk and smash his car into the school, for God's sake. Yes, I did indicate how bad it would be to be labeled as a offender, and I'm sure he got the email from the principal that spooked him, but he was the one who crashed his car. I didn't put my foot on the gas. Everything that happened was simply karma. Okay. And so she goes to leave for the day. The daughters are both home. Lexi's still like not pouting. Like she's obviously going through it in her bedroom, right? Crying and stuff. And so Debbie goes to leave and she tells the girls that she's leaving. And she's like, I'm going out for a bit. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, she says through the door. Try not to kill anyone. I stifle a smile. She has no idea. There's one very big problem that I need to fix. And after I do that, maybe I'll be able to sleep through the night again. After nearly half a century of life, I've realized that the only person who is truly looking out for me and my best interests is myself. In which case, I'm just like, I am not obviously diminishing what she went through, but she's acting like the whole world was like against her in some way, or that like all of these people need to be held accountable, or that they all like wronged her somehow. But it was just some random frat guy who roofied her. So why aren't we just mad at him? I don't understand why we're like, the whole world wronged me. You know what I mean? Like hey, trust me, trust that I understand what she's going through. But like, it's such weird misplaced anger to have so many years later, to like still be feeling so much anger at like all of the exterior factors. Yes, in the beginning, sure. Angry being after you get over the sadness for like a really long time. And then you go through this really crazy rage period that's like a lot of fun. Love that period of life. And she still seems like she's in that part and just like misplacing it really, really badly. And it's crazy to me. And I just don't understand the logic. Again, trust, but I don't understand the logic here that's happening currently in this moment, because she's going to the frat house because she's going to burn it down. What? Yeah, I know. Hey, I know. Yeah, she's going there. So she goes to the frat house under the guise of being like a reporter or something and like collecting stuff for an article about the fraternity, you know? And she's like, I need to do this. I will never feel at peace while this house is still standing. And so she like knocks on the door. They let her right in. They're like, oh my God, yeah, that would be so cool. Yeah, come write about us. We'll answer any questions that you got. And then we cut back over to Cooper, and we'll come back to her in a minute. But I'm just like, what are we doing? Okay, it's fine. Chapter 54, Cooper's POV. He is continuing to work. He's just kind of vibing, having that weird feeling from earlier, but trying to get through his day and do his own thing, right? And then he randomly gets a phone call from his daughters that say, Dad, you have to come home right now. You have to see something. We're really, really worried about mom. And we went on her computer and like, it's really crazy. And so he rushes home, and in the process of doing so, he continues to talk to his daughter, and he's like, where's your mom at? And she's like, I don't know. She said she had to run errands. And so he pulls up the Findly app on his phone to see where she went. But when I clicked the last known location for Debbie, updated 2 hours ago, she must have turned off the location sharing. She doesn't want me to know where she went, and that scares the shit out of me. I'll be home in a minute. And then he, blah, 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 rushes home. He gets there, and he's looking at what they found on her computer. They found a folder on the desktop that is labeled Dear Debbie. And when they open it, they find all the Word documents of all of the things that I've been reading to you, all of these Dear Debbie drafts that we've been reading throughout the book. And this just felt very Verity by Colleen Hoover. Very Verity adjacent. So they find these notes and they're reading it and they're like, oh my God, this is so crazy. You know, this other one that they find is about like knitting a scarf for your husband and like strangling him with it. It's crazy, right? And so then the girls are like, okay, but we can't, where's mom at? Like we need to talk to her, and maybe she's hurting somebody, or maybe something crazy is going on. And he's like, I don't know. The app says 2 hours ago. And then he finds out from his tech savvy daughters as well. You can see the history of like where somebody went, and it logs it and like kind of saves it as a visited place if they had stayed there for more than 10 minutes. And so he's looking at it and he's like, okay, well, you know, there's the place where Robert Pike lived, which was like Coach Pike. And then the Hingham shipyard that I confronted her about, and the fitness store, or the gym, oh, geez, Louise, the gym place, the grocery store, plant store, totally normal stuff. And then there's 2 other locations that don't fit into any of those other categories. Oh no. I bring up the list of my contacts on my phone and I click on one of my favorites. I say a prayer to myself that I'll hear someone pick up on the other end of the line, but it's not a surprise when it goes to voicemail. Even so, I call one more time for good measure. This is very bad. And so then he runs out of the house and he tells the girls to call him if their mother calls them, or, you know what I mean, comes home or whatever, but he has to go and do something. Debbie, back to her, touring this fraternity house. She's getting a tour by the current president guy, and he's really nice. All these guys are really nice. But she's also like, that's what I thought about Hutch too, and how weird it is to be back in this place, and it's very triggering, and giving her the tour, and she's having all these different flashbacks and stuff, and it's kind of a rough read, I'm not gonna lie. And then he leads me outside of the room, but before I leave, because he shows her one of the bedrooms, before I leave, I casually drop my purse on the desk closest to the door. He doesn't see me do it, but when the tour ends, I will explain to him that I accidentally left it behind, and he'll let me come back up here to retrieve it. And that's when I will burn down the house. Today, I will end this. Good God. Cooper, the house, the favorite thing that he had checked on was the address for Ken Bryant, his boss. She went to his boss's house yesterday. And that's creepy. The Findly doesn't say when she was there, but he recognizes the address. And so he decides to go to Ken's house to make sure that he's okay, to see what's going on. And he also has the whole skill for finding places where house keys are. And so he finds one under like a potted plant or something. Goes inside, he's looking around, nobody's there. He tries calling again, but his phone is ringing. Like Ken, whatever, left his phone at the house. Well, if he's on a fishing trip, surely he would have brought his phone with him, right? And then he looks up and he sees like some weird like stuff on the stairs. And then he goes up the stairway. He goes into a couple of the bedrooms, kind of like peeks his head in. And in the last one, he finds Ken's dead body. Ken has been shot in the center of his forehead. Cool. Back to Debbie, talking about arson and burning this place down. Nestled within my purse is a cigarette taped to a book of matches. Before I leave the fraternity house, I will tell this guy that I forgot my purse upstairs. I'll run to get it, use the lighter on the desk to light the cigarette, and place it on the bed of the boy who owns the lighter. That's the best chance to make it look like an accident. I'll also lay the cigarette and matches on a couple pieces of paper. I had some in my purse just in case, but I also saw a few scraps of paper on the desk. And if I use those, it'll be more authentic. As the cigarette burns down, it will ignite the matches. They will in turn ignite the paper, and that will ignite the bed sheets. And at that point, the fire will spread quickly, and I'll be long gone by then. Okay. So that's her plan. That's how she's going to burn the house down. So they finish the tour and they go down into the basement where they like have some parties and stuff. And up on the wall, there's a giant sign that says, "Do not leave your drink unattended." She's like, "What is that about?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we have that up for parties. You know, nationwide risk of SA is higher at fraternity and sorority parties, and we take it very, very seriously here. We don't have punch bowls, and we encourage female guests to drink from cans or bottles that haven't been opened yet. And during parties, we close off the upper floors, so nobody's getting into the bedrooms. All party goers are in a place where we can see them." Oh. He's like, "You know, we can't prevent it." And she's like, "Well, you can't prevent it entirely." He says, "Maybe not, but I'm president here, and nothing like that is going to happen in this house while I'm in charge. If I ever suspected that one of our brothers was trying to roofie a girl or take advantage, we would investigate, and anyone who did that would be gone." And she's like, "Okay, he really sounds like he means this. And he brought this up in like his own volition and is rattling this off and stuff. And so maybe he does actually mean it. And maybe he's a good guy, right? Like maybe things have changed. Maybe times have changed in the last 20 years or however long it's been." And so she goes to leave, right? That ends the tour. And she's like, "Yeah, somebody will be back out later to take photos and stuff, but I'll begin writing the article with the information you gave me. Thank you so much. Oh my God, yeah, I forgot my purse upstairs. Silly me." He's like, "Oh, you want me to come with you?" And she's like, "No, I'll go do it." And he's like, "Okay, well, I got to study anyway, so I'll just be in the living room studying. Just let yourself out." And she's like, "Okay, bye." She goes upstairs. He's not even looking at me as I climb the stairs to the second floor. Oh no. Back to Cooper at Ken's house, finding this man dead on his bed. Yeah, he's probably been dead a while, based on the way that he looks. At least since yesterday morning, since he didn't show up for work. I can't seem to make myself get back on my feet. A wave of nausea washes over me, and it takes everything I have not to throw up. He's dead. Somebody shot him. Somebody murdered him. And I can't forget the reason I'm here in the first place, because my phone told me that Debbie had been here. But that doesn't mean Debbie was responsible for this. I mean, it seems like Ken might have been going through a divorce based on the complete absence of his spouse, or in some comments I heard from the secretary. She could be the one responsible, or a burglar. A burglar could have shot him. Anything would make more sense than Debbie murdering Ken because he wouldn't promote me. She doesn't even own a gun. Okay, I've got to calm down. I've got to pull myself together and call the police and tell them what happened. And then, just as I'm reaching for my phone, another thought occurs to me, one that stops me in my tracks. It's true. Debbie doesn't own a gun, but I've got one. It's registered in my name and my fingerprints are all over it. And he's starting to think that Debbie is framing him for this murder, right? For cheating on her. The ultimate like comeback of like, you've been cheating on me, so I'm going to make it look like a murder scene, right? Is like what we're all thinking here. Girl, this is crazy. And so he's like, okay, I have to rush home and go and see if my gun is in the stored case thing, or you know what I mean? He's like, I have to see if my gun's there. And maybe I'm just like being delusional, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't call the cops. He just goes home. Okay. He's like looking even worse. Debbie is speeding down the highway, heading back home after assumably trying to set this fraternity house on fire and stuff, right? And as she's zooming home, she gets a phone call from old Harley girl. And she says, "Hey, I know this is like super last second, but do you want to come over for pizza tonight? Like, you want to come over and have dinner?" And she's like, "Yeah, oh my God, that sounds so great." Okay, great, can't wait. So she's gonna have dinner at Harley's house. They hang up. That girl has some nerve. She really thinks that I don't have any idea what she's doing. When I first met her, I thought she was cool, and I was stupidly excited to make a new friend. I thought maybe after all these years, I found somebody I could confide in. How could I have been so wrong? Harley isn't my friend. She's a terrible person. I glance at the glove compartment of the car, which contains the gun I've been carrying around for the last couple of days since I took it from its hiding place. Whenever I touch it, I put on a pair of leather gloves, careful to keep my fingerprints from rubbing off on it and careful to preserve the fingerprints that are already on it. Tonight will be the last time I use the gun. The next time someone picks it up, it will be evidence. We have 8 chapters left. Cooper rushes out of Ken's house, speeds home. But as he's like hurrying and getting in his car, he looks up at Ken's house in the driveway, looks up at Ken's front door, sees that there is a camera, like a doorbell ring camera thing. And so he was just caught on video going in and leaving Ken's house. And he's like, oh my God, this is looking even worse, especially because I'm not going to call the cops right now. So this is just like, the evidence is piling up against me. This is absolutely horrific. I think about Coach Pike, who dared to kick Izzy off the soccer team, and now he's in jail. And I think about Lexi's boyfriend, Zayn, who's lying in a hospital bed with a broken neck. I reach into my pocket for my phone, and I send off a text, and then I start driving. Who'd you text? What'd you do? Did you warn somebody? Did you warn somebody about what was going on? Harley is preparing for Debbie to arrive for dinner. And she's, I'm tired of sneaking around with Cooper. I prefer more mature men, and it just so happens that a large chunk of them are already married. Okay, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to hear about this woman. And in the middle of getting ready and stuff, she gets a text message from Cooper that says, we need to talk. And she's like, oh, you're still coming over for dinner though, right? The conversation with Debbie is going to be difficult, and she might not believe me. She might think that I'm making the whole thing up or at least exaggerating. But if Cooper is here, then that will force the issue. When Cooper shows up at the door, she will understand everything immediately. She'll probably kick him out on the spot, and whatever he wants to talk about will suddenly become moot. I smile at the thought. And so he's going to be there at 6:15. He's going to go and have dinner at her house, and she's going to have Debbie get there at 6 o'clock, and then he's going to come 15 minutes later, and then she's going to have her affair partner and the wife there in her apartment. Okay, yeah, totally. Okay, back to Cooper's point of view. He gets home. First things first, he checks on the girls. They're like huddled together on the couch talking about everything crazy going on in their lives and stuff, and how they're just kind of worried about their mom. And then he goes into the garage, and her car's not there, obviously, because she's still running errands, doing God knows what. And he looks in his gun safe, and it's not there. Like, his gun safe is totally empty. The handgun that he had is gone. Okay, not good. Not good at all. Debbie adamantly did not want to buy one. She pointed out that you're more likely to shoot a member of your family than a burglar. And I pointed out that I'm not naive and I would take precautions. In the end, she couldn't stop me. The gun is in my name. She just had to deal with it. But he kept it in a lockbox in the garage, like outside of the house or whatever, as like kind of a compromise, I guess. And so now that he finds it empty, I stare down at the empty safe, realizing that my worst nightmares are true. I wasn't sure what was going on until this minute, but now I know. Ken Bryant and I had an argument, and I quit in a fit of anger. There is a lot of money missing from the company, and all signs point to it being an inside job. Ken has been murdered. He was shot in the head. The murder weapon is most certainly my gun, registered in my name. The gun is now missing, but I suspect that it will eventually resurface covered in my fingerprints, not to mention all the fingerprints I surely left behind at Ken's house. Holy shit, Debbie is framing me for the murder of my boss. And so then he decides to leave and go and try to find her, because he's like, there's only one other place that she could possibly be. Like, we've got to go. And so he leaves the girls again and goes off to God knows where. Can you imagine where he's saying he has to go and run off to right now? Chapter 64, Harley's point of view. Debbie arrives, and she's like, they're talking, having a little bit of casual chit chat. And she's like, yeah, actually, Debbie, I invited a guest here to join us, someone that I would like you to meet. Really? Who is it? It's my boyfriend. Her eyebrows shoot up. Harley, I didn't know you were seeing anybody. Who is he? He's a great guy. I met him at the gym and we just connected like soulmates, He's a bit older than me, but he's really hot. I wink at her. We can't keep our hands off of each other when we're together. She's like, wow, that's so fantastic. What does he do? And she's like, he's an accountant. Oh, like Cooper. Right, like Cooper. Oh my God. She's like, I'm so excited to meet him. And then she's like, yeah, there's one problem though. He's married. Oh, there's judgment in her voice. Yeah, but it's barely a marriage. They don't even sleep together anymore. They barely talk. He says that he would have left her years ago, but she's, emotionally fragile. And I would like to pause for 2 seconds. I'm just like straight up trauma dumping on y'all in this particular video. I had an ex who cheated on me, had like a whole ass affair for like 6 months and stuff. And then when I eventually found out, for even beyond effed up reasons that you could possibly imagine, I talked to the girl. I talked to the affair partner, and she tells me that she was like, yeah, I knew that he lived with you, and that's why like I could never visit him. at y'all's place. But yeah, he just always told me that he couldn't leave you because you would off yourself. Like that you were too like emotionally fragile, basically, for him to leave you. So that's why he had to have an affair. I was like, okay. These are things people say. These are things real life people say. This really happens to people. This book is crazy, dude. Okay. Collect myself. So yes, she's like, yeah, so he's just like sleeping with me or whatever behind his wife's back. And then she's like, he could be lying. You know that, right? Like, not the case. But before anything can happen, there's a knock at the door. She pulls it open. Cooper is standing there in the doorway. He's wearing a dress shirt from work that day, although he has sweat dotting the collar slightly, which makes me think that he came directly from the gym, but that's okay. I love him all hot and sweaty. Hi, Cooper, I say in a husky voice that makes it clear what our relationship is. He starts to reply, but then his gaze moves past me, over my shoulder, and falls on Debbie. All the blood drains from his face, and he takes a step back. What are you doing here? He gasps. A smile touches Debbie's lips, although she still has that dark look in her eyes that sends a chill down my spine. Hello, Jesse, she says. My note is, I hate this fucking woman, LMAO. It's Jesse! It's Jesse! It's Cooper's friend, Cooper's work friend, Cooper's gym friend. Jesse, who's married. Okay? It's not actually Cooper. We'll circle back to that because we do have a POV from Cooper currently. And he's like, I've got to find Debbie. And so what he's doing is he's going to the one other address on the Findly app of the place that she'd been at in the last 48 hours that she was there for more than 10 minutes for. And that was when she had lunch at Harley's house. And so he goes to that general vicinity, right? Because he's like, she's got to be here like somewhere. I don't know where exactly she is, but it's like an approximate location thing. I don't know. In which case I was like, I thought this was supposed to be super uber detailed about where they were. What do you mean approximate? What do you mean you don't know the exact location of where you're going? But anyway, I don't have 178 IQ. I guess I just don't get it. So he starts driving though, you know, because he's got to find her, right? He has to find her, and I'm going to tell her how much I love her because I do. And even after all of this, I still love her. She's the only woman I've ever loved or will ever love. Girl, if you think she just killed your boss and she's framing you, that's your first response, okay? And then in this moment, too, as he's driving around, driving toward this location to try and find his wife, he gets the phone call. The phone call from the mystery woman, the phone calls that he's been receiving throughout the book and being really, like, suspicious about. It turns out it's his AA sponsor, his Alcoholics Anonymous sponsor. Cooper has... is an alcoholic. And he's like, yeah, I'm a shit. How could I fail to tell the woman that I love that I've been an alcoholic since before we even met? How could I conceal such an important part of who I am? I was ashamed, and I swear I thought I had it conquered, and Debbie never needed to know, but that was no excuse. And he goes on talking about how he found out he had this problem in college and how it was just like, he obviously just drank different than other people. And he'd been doing good, like for a really long time. But then during their marriage, I've fallen off the wagon 3 times. And each time I've come very close to telling her, but I didn't. I would call my sponsor to confess my sins, turn off location sharing, and sneak back into the AA meetings and get myself back under control all on my own. I know, it's ridiculous. I obviously should have told her. But before we were married, I was scared that if I told her, she would lose respect for me and dump me. And then after we were married, I realized it was too late and she would be furious for me lying to her, which is like a direct pull and like mirroring of Debbie not telling him about her assault that she had gone through. Oh. And then we learned that he's the one that had polished off that white wine and like had filled it up with water and stuff. So it's really sad. And that's why they don't have alcohol in the house very often, like ever. Oh my God. And so Debbie, back to her at Harley's house with Jesse. Hello? I have to hand it to Jesse. Telling Harvey that his name was Cooper Mullen was a smart move. Cooper was already in the system at the gym because he used it too. And also a technophobe, he didn't have any social media presence online. Any search she did would fail to show a photo or any information. It kept Jesse's wife, actually quite a nice woman who doesn't deserve any of this, from discovering what her husband was up to. I have no doubt that it was not his first rodeo. Cooper hasn't been entirely honest with me, but one thing he would never do is cheat on me. He has many faults, but he does love me, and he's very, very loyal. And so she's like, Harley, she's like, Jesse? Who's Jesse? And he's like, look, Harley, there's a few things that I might not have been entirely honest with you about. And she's like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm not Cooper. Cooper's the other guy that I go to the gym with all the time. He and we work together. And she's like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. You're such a liar, blah, blah, blah. Because this, like, also completely ruined her whole thing about Debbie. And, like, this is such a weird thing to happen. This is, like, such an odd dynamic. It's icky, okay? It's icky. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't like it. I don't like this woman. We'll talk about it in a second. So she tries to kick Jesse out, but he passes the fuck out because he was chugging his water. Turns out his water had opium that she had mixed into it at some point, and he chugged it on his way over and then ends up passing out on Harley's couch before he's able to leave. And he's like on the couch passed out, and Harley's like shaking him, and she's like, Cooper or Jesse or whoever you are, whatever your name is, are you even listening to me? And then I have a thing in my note, and I'm like, did she never hear them address each other in the gym? But I guess she didn't, because she kept her distance, right? Because it was going to be like too obvious if they talked in the gym or whatever. So maybe she just like was never around the two of them. They would just like eye each other across the gym. But I'm like, does this gym also not have like photos associated? I know, like, I guess it depends on how nice and how big of a gym that you go to that has like the little photo membership stuff. Because usually it like compares your picture when you check in to make sure that you're not like sharing the membership, right? Maybe I just go to bougie gyms. I don't know. But like that never, you didn't look them up in your own gym system to find, it's fine. It's fine, I guess. I don't even know why I'm questioning it. And so, while Harley is distracted trying to wake up Jesse from the couch, Debbie goes to her purse. She puts on her leather gloves. She pulls out the gun. Harley interrupts her tirade against Jesse and turns to look at me. And when she sees the gun in my hand, she inhales sharply. Debbie, what are you doing? In a way, Harley is innocent. She never did anything to me directly. She did think she was sleeping with my husband, but she wasn't. I have no beef with her. But she's a terrible person. She used me, and she destroyed countless marriages without remorse. I hate to use her as a pawn, but she would do the same to me, so no big loss. Sorry, Harley, I say. And then I point the gun at her forehead, and I pull the trigger. The gunshot kills her instantly. Oh! Okay. Harley's dead? Laying on the floor next to Jesse, who's passed out on the couch. She's looking at Jesse, who's like, his head is lolling on the sofa. He's now unconscious. Even the sound of the gunshot wasn't enough to bring him back. I thought I might need to give him another shot of opium, which I have handy in my purse, but he drank enough that it wasn't needed. It's better that he's asleep. He almost certainly won't remember a thing of what went on in this apartment, and it's safer for me that way. But I wish he could know. I wish he knew that it was his gun that I used to shoot Harley. The one that I took from his house a few days ago, the key was under the doormat, if you can believe that. Barely even a challenge. I was smart enough to turn off my location sharing for that little heist. I didn't want there to be any clues that I was the one who took the gun, especially when the police matched the bullet from this gun to the one that killed Ken Bryant. Although I'm not too worried. The paper trail between Jesse and that offshore bank account with all the money that's been stolen from the company will provide ample motive for the murder. I even sent him that text message from Ken's phone asking him to water the plants so he would be caught on the door cam. That camera at Ken's door proved to be very useful, especially since I was able to delete the footage of my own arrival at his door. It took me less than 60 seconds to eliminate any evidence of my guilt. Nobody will suspect me. Jesse and I hardly know each other. Why would I frame a virtual stranger for murder? Why would I kill his girlfriend right in front of him? Are you ready for this? You deserve this, I whispered to the sleeping man on the sofa. Hutch. For a split second, Jesse's eyelids flicker. Did he hear me? Part of me hopes he did. Even though it would incriminate me, part of me wants him to know who I am and why I'm doing this. Of course, he hasn't recognized me yet. It was a long time ago and we both look a lot different. Plus, I'm damn near positive that I was not his only victim. I was just one in a long line of faceless, nameless co-eds. But I had no trouble recognizing him. The second I laid eyes on Jesse when Cooper arranged that double date with him and his wife, I immediately recognized that face. And that cologne. The same one he wore in college. The same one that was clinging to that t-shirt. It still haunts me. The olfactory associations are so powerful. And so that's why, like, they went on that double date 6 months ago. And so that's why she's been kind of spiraling ever since she came in contact with this man again and, like, knew of his existence, and, like, her husband's best friends with him, right? Like, this is crazy. Like, this whole situation is crazy, dude. His name is Jesse Hutchison, by the way, so that's why he goes by Hutch. It's part of his last name. Yeah, I don't know. So she also goes on to explain how part of her, like, coping with everything was the Dear Debbie letters. She wrote, like, fake responses, or, like, really, really aggressive responses, kind of working through all of that anger and stuff that she's been, like, bottling up and, like, has been festering, especially since meeting Jesse and having all these, like, feelings reemerge and, like, resurface for her. That's why she's writing all of these. Obviously, it's all, like, saved in drafts on her desktop though, because it's just, like, a coping mechanism. It's not, like, a legit thing. So again, very verity coded here. And then we learn that she did not actually burn down the university frat house thing. She went there, realized the guy was, like, super nice, that she couldn't go through with it. Besides, it's not their fault for what happened all those years ago. It wasn't fair to blame them. There's only one person who was to blame that night. Jesse Hutchison's eyes flutter shut. There's more than enough evidence to tie him to Ken Bryant's murder, and now to this murder that will soon be discovered at this apartment when I call the police and ask them to check on my friend whose jealous boyfriend was threatening her. When Jesse's gone, I will finally be able to move past this. I will finally be at peace. Of course, Cooper is outside of the house, kind of, like, wandering around trying to find her vehicle. He ends up spotting it in the back, like, for that basement entrance thing to the house out in the back area. You know what I mean? He sees her car and he sees Jesse's car. And so he's like, it looks really familiar, but I can't pinpoint it. Like, he doesn't know that it's Jesse's car. And then he hears the gunshot happen. And then he starts freaking out. He's like, Debbie! He's, like, banging on the doors and stuff. Keep in mind, the couple upstairs is on vacation. This is also part of the plan. Knowing that they were gone, she'd be able to get away with all this stuff. So he's, like, banging on the house, and he's, like, going around, peeking in windows, trying to find Debbie. The gunshot really, really freaks him out. And Debbie hears him calling her name. And she's about to do the whole thing to make it look like Josh ends his life. I can't just abandon my entire plan after hearing her husband calling her name. 2 people are dead. If I walk away right now, I'm going to take the blame for everything. I don't have a choice anymore. I put my right index finger over Jesse's and I pull the trigger. And then she leaves through Harley's front door and she pops around the side and she's like, Cooper, what are you doing here? He's like, I heard a gunshot. I was really worried. He absolutely did hear a gunshot, but the bullet in question is lodged in the ceiling of Harley's apartment. Jesse is still alive. He's like, what was that sound? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe it was, like, a car backfired or something. He's like, what are you doing here? She says, a friend of mine lives here. She has a basement apartment with the entrance in the back. I came to see her, but I guess she forgot because she's not answering her door. And then they end up having their moment. Hold on. They glance at each other super, super weird. And he hugs her and he's like, hey, Debbie, like, I need to tell you something. Like, I need you to know something. And he's like, I'm an alcoholic. I've been sneaking off to AA meetings without telling you. I've known since college, blah, blah, blah. I was ashamed. That's why I kept it from you. I should have told you the truth from the start, but you're always so perfect and amazing. And I didn't want you to think less of me. And so he looks at her. And she's like, I wish that he would have told me sooner, but I also understand why he didn't. I can't throw stones. And now it's my turn. I was AR'd in college, I say. That's why I dropped out. His jaw drops open and he stares at me for several seconds. Too long until I almost wish I hadn't told him. When he finally, and then he, like, pulls her into a hug and, like, hugs her really, really hard. When he finally pulls away, his eyes are slightly damp. I think we need couples therapy. A laugh bubbles out of me. No freaking kidding. There's something I need to ask you, though. He rubs the back of his neck. And I need you to tell me the truth. Do you promise to tell me the truth? I promise. Did you shoot Ken Bryant with my gun? I flinch. He must have gone over to Ken's house. He must have seen him lying dead with a bullet wound in his head, and he thinks I might have killed him, but instead of calling the police, he ran to find me. I swear on our children's lives, I did not shoot Ken Bryant with your gun. And it's true. It was Jesse's gun. And then he's like, okay, but, like, my gun is missing from the safe. And she says, yeah, I told you. I got rid of it. I didn't want one in the house. And he says, yeah, we definitely need to go to couples therapy. Let's go home. And he doesn't have to ask me a second time. And that's how the book ends, dude. There is an epilogue, though. which I am going to tell you. I don't usually do epilogues. If you know, you know, but we're doing it for this one because this is crazy. So epilogue, 1 year later, Cooper's POV. For starters, after Ken's murder, I founded my own accounting firm, and it has flourished. I've now got a staff of half a dozen people, and we even got a favorable write-up in the Boston Globe. I never thought of myself as much of a businessman. Hold on one second. My thing is all goofed up here. I never thought of myself as much of a businessman, but apparently I'm better at it than I thought. I guess Debbie was right. I still can't believe Ken was murdered. Even worse, that my friend Jesse was the one who killed him. I refused to believe it at first, but the evidence kept mounting to the point where it was undeniable. Jesse stole money from the company, and when Ken found out, he shot him. And that's not even the worst of it. He was having an affair with the trainer from the gym named Harley. I'd seen her around several times before and remembered the pink streak in her hair. Blah, blah, blah. Apparently, Harley was putting pressure on Jesse to leave his wife. Cool. The jury agreed. He was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder and received 2 consecutive life sentences. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. And then we also learned that Zayn, after his accident, he's out of the hospital and in serious legal trouble. And he's like, his neck is broken. He's like wheelchair bound. It says using a wheelchair that he operated with his mouth. Like, kid is messed up after this car accident. And now he's in legal trouble for the whole child stuff that was going on there. And then Izzy's kicking butt on the soccer team. Debbie's doing great. She made a new app on the phone. It's like, we're not talking about it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. She made an app. She's doing good. She sold it, made some money. Awesome. Everything's going so great. And then we get Jesse's point of view. This epilogue is broken up into like multiple POVs. Jesse's in prison, not doing well, really upset. He's like, I'm so innocent. I shouldn't be here. I'm so better than all these people. Blobbity, blobbity, blah. And then all of a sudden he wakes up in the middle of the night being surrounded by a bunch of men that have probably locks in some socks, and they start beating the ever loving F out of him. And they say, this is for Misty Carden. Her brother is in Block D and I owe him a favor. And he's realizing that like this is another woman that he arred. Okay, awesome. So he gets beaten in prison for this like Misty woman, or on behalf, I guess, of this Misty woman. And then we go back to Debbie and Debbie's point of view. And I feel good after Cooper and I made dinner plans for tonight. He's trying so hard to be a good husband. Everything we went through was hard, but it's made our marriage so much stronger. It's been a year later. Did I say that earlier? It's a year later. Our therapist keeps telling us that we need to be honest, and I'm trying to be honest, but there are some things that I can never tell him. I can never tell him that I killed his boss, for instance. I can't tell him that his former best friend, who will spend the rest of his life in a maximum security prison, is innocent. At least innocent of killing Ken and Harley. Cooper doesn't know that Jesse's the one who arred me. Given how furious he was when I told him what happened, I think he'd agree that Jesse got what he deserved, but I didn't want to make him party to what I had done. There was a tense period when I wasn't sure how the trial would go, and I was worried that Jesse might remember the woman in Harley's apartment just before he passed out. I wanted to make sure Cooper could credibly plead ignorance. If someone was to go to jail, it would be me and me alone. And then she drives to the gym to get a workout. And she runs into Cindy at the front desk. Homegirl that was clocking all the men trying to cheat on their wives, right, Cindy? A girl's girl. She's like, hey, Debbie, I put a towel on the elliptical machine by the window so nobody else would use it. I grin at her. You're the best, Cindy. As she looks at me, her smile falters slightly. It's the least I can do. Cindy Bryant believes with all of her heart that she owes me everything. This is about to get wild. I need you to lock in, okay? Please listen to me about what I'm about to say to you. I have tears in my eyes, okay? You, me, right now, listen. Nearly 2 years ago, she wrote me a letter at Dear Debbie describing the financial abuse by her husband. When I begged her to leave him and told her to contact me, she did exactly that. But it turned out we were more connected than we thought. I did everything I could to help her. I found her a place to live. I helped her find this job at Titan Fitness. She was doing so well, but her husband, Ken, was making the divorce miserable for her. He was using every trick in the book to deprive her of any financial resources, and he was trying to turn her children against her. He eventually got me fired, never realizing that Dear Debbie was the wife of his employee. I couldn't let him get away with it. I had to help Cindy. And that's why I decided to put a bullet in his head and blame it on Jesse Hutchison. I made sure to do it at a time when she had an alibi, and she helped me too. On the night before Harley was shot, she overheard Harley and Jesse's plans to meet and filled me in. Then on the evening in question, while he was in the gym shower, she spiked his water bottle with the opium I gave her. What can I say? I was inspired by Jesse, what Jesse did to me all those years ago. How's Cooper? She asks. Great, the business is doing well, and he's been really sweet lately. We're going out for a date tonight. Funny, she grins at me. You and Cooper should double date with me and AJ sometime. Cindy has been dating a really nice guy recently. They're taking it slow, but I met him once, and I can tell he's going to treat her right. Even so, a double date might be tempting fate. There's too much we don't want our men to know. Maybe sometime, I say evasively. I'm glad Cooper's treating you well. Because if he's not, we exchange a meaningful look. Same, I say. Cooper has been really good to me, but I'm not too worried. Cindy and I will look out for each other. Nobody will take advantage of me ever again. Well, that was Dear Debbie by Freida McFadden. Dare I say my favorite one that we've covered on the channel so far? I don't know. I think it might be. That was crazy. What a crazy, crazy read. It was still twisty, but not in the way that her books usually are. That was twisty in a different way that I didn't see coming. And I guess I kind of did because she never just introduces characters. Every character ties in somehow into craziness. But I did not expect Cooper and Jesse to not be the same person thing. But there was one point where Harley was talking to Jesse and he was like, yeah, my wife, Debbie. Oh, actually, maybe she started that because Harley was like, what time does Debbie expect you home? And then he responded about Debbie. And I guess he just fully embraced the role of playing him and just called his wife Debbie throughout their interactions, which is just kind of weird. I don't know. What a weird book. What a weird situation. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? Let me know down below. It is 9:30. I've got to get to bed. I've got to work in the morning. So I don't know. I don't know anything, but I think it was good. I think I actually had a good time. Like I said, I think that might have been my favorite one of hers that I've covered. I'm ending this chat with you and I don't feel drained. And that's a first of one of her books that I've done that and felt pretty good actually. So yeah, comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Like I said, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching the video and getting this far in it. I have no idea what's coming next on the channel. I am completely winging it at this point in my life. So we'll figure it out together. No matter what it is, I will see you in the next one. Bye.